the special effects scientist of the world of American comics. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26 Batman Returns. The next day, at the discussion meeting of the 4 official magicians, I submitted a petition to Alfred about wanting to have a practical exercise with you, but Alfred has already replied, and he actually refused. Gory slapped the table in indignation. He must have seen that I was becoming increasingly powerful in Wayne Manor, so he deliberately rejected my request. Zatanna, who was sitting opposite him, had 1,000 complaints in her heart. Why did you submit a petition to describe asking for the butler's opinion? Question mark. And isn't Wayne Manor originally your property, Gory Wayne? How can it be increasingly powerful? It's as if Alfred is the emperor of Wayne Manor. Do you have any opinions? Zap, are you as indignant as I am? Gory noticed Zatanna's expression. Well, how about you bring his head to see me? Zatanna. Master Gory, what are you discussing? At this time, Alfred pushed a cart full of black tea and snacks in and asked amiably. Gory immediately said seriously, I say Alfred Gao shall. The other 3. In the end, under Alfred's strong surveillance, Gory regrettably failed to fight with the 3. But in fact, fighting would not produce any results. Lady Xanadu and Constantine are not good at direct combat. Although Zatanna is powerful, she is only infinitely close to the realm of Magic Master, and is also not a well-known master on the magic side. Therefore, they can only part ways in peace. Lady Xanadu left happily with a generous reward. At least she would not have to open a divination shop for a year. Before leaving, Constantine hesitated and lit a cigarette at the door of Wayne Manor. Your new power is really very strong. Well, although I can't tell you the details, you can think of it as a special attack on the magic side. Special attack. Constantine was stunned and didn't understand the game term. It means to restrain the magic side. Gory explained. The ancients said that restraint is greater than heaven, and special attack is like a god. Constantine was silent for a moment. Which country's ancients would say this? And judging from the length of history, do you Americans have ancient people? Well, I won't take your hush money, and I will keep it a secret for you, but in return, I hope you can do me a favor in the future. Constantine said, taking a puff of cigarette with melancholy. I may have caused a big trouble, but I'm good at crooked ways, and maybe I will need your help in the end. Gao Li quickly replied, then I'll pay you. Constantine. Ha ha ha. I'm kidding. Gao Li laughed and patted Constantine on the shoulder. It's okay, just take the hush money, and if you need help, I will also lend a hand without hesitation. Although from the rumors I heard in the past, you are both a scumbag and a bastard, but at least we have become friends during this period. Help between friends does not cost anything, right? Constantine was moved by what he said, and at the same time a little aggrieved. Thank you for your evaluation. After Constantine left, it was Zatanna's turn to come over, hesitant to speak. Gory, I don't need the hush money, but I hope you can help me. Wait. Gory interrupted her. This paragraph sounds so familiar. Am I stuck in a loop? Zatanna was stunned. Does Constantine also want your help? Yes, so I can tell you what I said to him again. You and I are already friends, and friends help each other without any cost. You can still give me the hush money, and I will help you, if I'm busy. Thank you, Gory. Zatanna's eyes were slightly red, and she hugged Gory. After letting go of Gory, Zatanna talked about her request, which was actually hoping that Gory could use the power of the Wayne group to help her find out the whereabouts of her father Guani. This little thing was very simple. Gory gave Alfred an order on the spot and then waved goodbye to Zatanna. Then it's time to see the reward for this impact. Gory returned to his room and clicked on the system interface. Since he has become the new generation of Magic Master, there is no doubt that he has gained a lot of influence. The system showed that there was an additional S-level lottery and an SS-level lottery. Although it alarmed the forces of the universe, it only frightened them. They didn't even know who the Lord of Magic was, so it naturally wouldn't affect their subsequent actions. As usual, Gao Li started to draw 2 consecutive times, and immediately the descriptions of 2 new rewards appeared in front of him. Development data of the Victory Hypergun and its matching bullets. Gao Li's eyes lit up. Great, it's the Victory Hypergun that is more powerful than the Tucker gun. The Victory Hypergun comes from the Victory Team, the Earth Defense Organization in Ultraman Tiger. Gao Li has been envious of the Defense Team technology in the Ultraman series for a long time. After all, the major defense teams are constantly developing black technology, and there are even palm-sized weightless bullets that can kill Jeton in seconds. It's not a dream to blow up Superman with one shot. The reward for the second lottery is a long-lost small skill. The name of the skill is Cosmic Street Slicker. It can be activated once a day, and it will allow me to teleport to any area randomly. Gory was stunned. Dino was actually me. Compared to trying the dangerous skill of Cosmic Street Slicker, which was too random, Gory was more interested in the technology of the Victory Hypergun. Before Gory could dive into the laboratory, Alfred brought new news with a happy face. Master Bruce just contacted me. Gory was surprised. Brother Batman is finally coming back. Because he was too obsessed with scientific research during this period, he almost forgot that he had a brother. I told Master Bruce about you, and he said he was very happy, but Alfred brewed the words, as if thinking about how to say it so as not to make Gory sad. Master Bruce said he can't come back for the time being, and this contact is just to inform me that he will be out of touch for a while. But he promised that he would rush back to Gotham as soon as he finished his business. He also misses you very much. Is that so? Gory coughed. AFR, you don't have to worry too much. I have been in a state of dementia before. To be honest, I'm not very familiar with Bruce, but I'm closer to you. Gory was undoubtedly telling the truth. With the current relationship between him and Alfred, there is no need to hide the true feelings in his heart. Alfred was stunned for a moment, and then shook his head with a smile. It makes sense to hear you say that, and it is indeed the case. I'm very sorry, I was too happy just now, so I took it for granted. After Alfred left, Gory fell into deep thought. Wayne Industries is very useful and can provide a lot of funds and equipment, but Wayne Industries is both his Wayne Industries and Bruce's Wayne Industries. This means that while Gory is using Wayne Industries resources, all the research and results he has done are completely transparent to Bruce Batman. I heard that Batman was against this plan and that plan, and even leaked his own database in a certain universe. Although it's a bit of an overthinking. From a security perspective, he can't expose all his cards. It seems that it's urgent to create a force that belongs to him alone. Chapter 27 The Wrath of Lex Luthor. Judging from the news conveyed by Bruce, it is probably not far from his return to Gotham City. Maybe he said that he would lose contact because he had to learn and train in the mysterious Shadow Warrior League. When Bruce returns, it will undoubtedly be the time when Batman is born. Thinking of this, Gao Li made up his mind. There is still some time to operate. Slip away. You give me the way. And this is also a good opportunity to realize Gao Li's dream when he was in the Marvel world. That is to start a company, make the company bigger and stronger, and civilianize the technology of Kamen Rider, benefit countries around the world and benefit all mankind. The impact should be big enough. As Gao Li once said to Tony, he did not want Kamen Rider's technology to be used in wars that satisfy the ambitions of the upper class. Kamen Rider's technology should be used to protect mankind and benefit mankind. In this way, Gao Li can feel that as a researcher, he is not ashamed of the knowledge of the other world he has learned. That night, Gao Li simply drafted a business plan and explained his ideas to Alfred. He knew that it was impossible to completely hide it from Alfred, and Gory had never thought of hiding it. This was not a shameful plan. If you have made up your mind, I will fully support you. Unlike Gory's violent reaction, although Alfred still had a strong reluctance in his eyes, when Gory really decided to do something, as a butler, he would only obey the will of his master. Don't worry, I won't go to a city too far away. We can meet again at any time. Gory smiled and shook Alfred's hand, just like holding the palm of an elder at home. He could feel the warmth and wrinkles on it, as well as the traces left by the years. In order to prevent Wayne Industries from becoming an investor, Gao Li finally took a large sum of money in the name of a personal loan and went to another super first-tier metropolis in the United States that was as famous as Gotham. Metropolis. Half a year later, Fedian building. Cars came and went in the building, all of which were reporters with long guns and short guns, in addition to many celebrities who were invited. The reason they gathered together was that the Fedian group, which was established in just half a year, was going to hold its first Fedian technology exhibition today. As soon as they entered the exhibition hall, soft electronic sounds rang in the ears of visitors. Although they were not wearing headsets, the electronic sound introduction seemed to be right next to them, which made everyone amazed. Since the establishment of the Fedian group, we have achieved rapid expansion in the market and have made amazing achievements in the civilian field. Our G-series guard accelerators have become the preferred retractable electromagnetic batons for private security companies. And the commutation macro generator is also better than the power generation efficiency of generators of the same size on the market and has super high safety and stability. It can even withstand the impact of missile level explosions and continue to operate. Zero emission fuel pollution free fuel cells of superior performance and no pollution. They are in line with the environmental protection concept of today's society and have obtained multiple environmental certifications. We have to mention our silver reinforced soft plastics, which have been widely used in various fields and have received a large number of orders in many countries. This is just the tip of the iceberg of our group's achievements in materials science. Astrium ultra rigid metal can greatly enhance the strength of the frame with only one layer of vapor deposition. In addition, there is the highly anticipated helio metal, which has the amazing effect of amplifying energy and shocked the world when it was first released. In addition to the civilian-related technologies disassembled from Kamen Rider G3 and Kamen Rider Faiz, Gao Li also completed the preliminary research and development of astronomical switches in the past 6 months, and disassembled 2 sets of new metals with amazing effects. Relying on these products that are far ahead of their peers, and of course with the secret protection of Wayne Group, Gao Li has avoided a lot of troubles. Fedian Group has almost become the fastest growing company in the world. After the electronic sound introduction, the protagonist of this exhibition officially appeared. In full view of the public, a black-haired Asian appeared at the top of the booth. It was Gao Li who changed his appearance by transfiguration magic. That's right, Gao Li has not relaxed the manufacturing and grinding of magic stones in the past 6 months, and he has mastered a large number of magician rings. Gao Li has also thought about returning to the Marvel universe during this period, but he can only travel through 2 worlds at present, and has not yet found a way to bring back the endless magician rings. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I believe you all know me, the president of Hidden Corporation, Guri. The name here is a direct transliteration of the Chinese name, not the name Guri. From the English alone, there is a huge difference between the two. The audience immediately became a sea of flashing lights, and a reporter immediately raised his hand to ask a question. Mr. Gao, what do you think of Mr. Lex Luthor, who is also known as the Twin Stars of Metropolis? Guri stretched out his hand and pressed the air, quieting the noise. I have never heard of the title of the Twin Stars of Metropolis. After all, Lex Corporation is just a shameless company that immediately follows and copies whatever products the Hidden Corporation produces. It is not worthy of being called the same as me. This arrogant statement immediately set off a large number of flashing lights, and the reporter became excited, as if he had heard big news. But Mr. Luthor recently made a statement that in terms of personal intelligence, only you can barely keep up with his pace. In fact, the expansion speed of Lex Group is second only to that of Hidden Group. Why do you despise Lex Group so much? Gao Li said lightly, when Lex Luthor makes some groundbreaking inventions instead of following me for reference and imitation, then I will consider looking at him in the eye. Next one. At this moment, in the Lex building, a young man who started to have a slight baldness at a young age, was watching the live broadcast. Hearing this, he smashed the remote control in his hand. How dare you look down on me like this, bastard. I will let you know who is the smartest person in the world. Luthor has been extremely arrogant since he was a child. In fact, among all the people he has met, basically no one can keep up with his IQ. The company he founded was also named Lex instead of his surname because he wanted to show that he had such achievements purely by relying on his extraordinary wisdom. It was not until the hidden group came out of nowhere and caught up with the Lex group in just half a year that Luther was forced to be on guard against Gao Li. Who would have thought that Gory would look down on him like this? Hey, I can't even hold back my shit and piss, but Gory. When Luther was furious, the science and technology exhibition came to a successful conclusion. Gory returned to the office and was about to relax when Harley Quinzel, the top student secretary he had recruited, knocked on the door and came in. "Boss, there's a call from Wayne Group." "Oh, what did they say on the phone?" Gory straightened himself up. His identity is still confidential. The only person in Wayne Group who will contact him is Alfred. The rest of the people don't know the relationship between Feidian Group and the Wayne family. Holly said, "It said inside, I want to tell you that the whereabouts of Guani John Zatara has been found. P.S. Thanks to book friend 202210120859477735 for the 100-point reward. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28, Magic Masters Gather in Gotham. An anonymous person provided information that many magic masters gathered in the suburbs of Gotham, and there were also eyewitness reports that they saw your father Guani. The next day, Gory said to Zatanna, who was called over, which made Zatanna very excited. "My father has been a world-renowned magician for a long time. He has performed many times all over the world, so it is not surprising that someone recognizes his appearance. This eyewitness information is very credible. Gotham is my family's base camp. There is no need to doubt the authenticity of the information. Moreover, a living person is still active in the United States. It would be strange if the Wayne Group could not find him in half a year. No matter what, the Wayne Group is one of the largest giants in the United States, and the power and energy it can mobilize are beyond imagination. But I always feel a little uneasy when they all go to Gotham. Do you have any idea about these magic masters gathering together?" Zatanna shook her head. "I don't know. And since my father is fine, why didn't he inform me at all? I don't understand this either. It seems to be a big deal to attract so many magic masters. Gotham City is really full of disasters." Gory sighed. Let's go home and take a look." The private plane of Feidian Group has been waiting for Tikiaf. After the two arrived in Gotham City, they got on the special car of Wayne Group without stopping. This is irrelevant information collected by Wayne Group. They seem to be here for this person. Alfred in the car handed over a piece of information, and Gory took it and flipped through it. Crispus Allen, a former police officer of the Gotham Police Department. Why would a policeman have a connection with the magic world? Gory was puzzled. Could it be that the real magic boss actually lived in seclusion in Gotham City? He had previously gone far to find Constantine and Mrs. Shangdu. "We'll know when we get there. I'll definitely ask my dad for clarification," Zatanna said. "Okay." Gory turned to Alfred. "You go back immediately after we get off the car. I'm afraid there will be some conflict and the residual power will affect you." Alfred worriedly said, "Master Gory, is this too dangerous? If we can be sure that it's an enemy, I suggest hiring a top assassin to deal with it." After learning about the existence of magic, I checked some intelligence in the assassin world. It seems that top assassins such as Deathstroke and Bloodsport have even killed magicians. So, Alfred, you're a bit too extreme. I just said that there might be a conflict. Gory wiped the sweat from his forehead. Why did he go straight to the assassin after learning about the existence of magic? How did they get connected? Exclamation mark. It can only be said that as a former Mi-5 agent, his first reaction was to start imagining what means the Wayne family could use to get rid of the opponent if they were enemies with magicians. Anyway, don't worry. All magicians have to call me dad. No magician can hurt me. Zatanna asked quietly, "What should I call you? Daddy? Grandpa? I'll describe it this way. Why are you here, little Zap? After much persuasion, Alfred agreed to leave first. Only Gori and Zatanna were left walking towards a lonely cabin in the distance. There was no community around, which looked like a secluded place. After walking a few steps, Gori suddenly raised his hand and grabbed Zatanna. Wait, there seems to be a magic barrier. Is there? Zatanna looked around in surprise, but she didn't feel anything. But Gori, who had become the master of magic, was very sensitive to magic and firmly believed that he was not wrong. The barrier is very sophisticated. It is probably the work of master, or even several masters. It's normal that you can't feel it. As he spoke, Gori put onto rings and placed them on the black palm at the belt. Fire, please. Flame, connect, please. Connection. The spell sounded automatically, followed by a large fireball suspended in the air and a space magic circle connected to an unknown place. Although this connection magic does not allow living things to pass through as a whole, it can pass through inanimate objects, and the interior of the barrier is generally more fragile. Let's give it a try. Gao Li whispered softly. It was also the first time for him to use his own magic to fight against the magic of the DC world. To be honest, he was a little nervous. Go. Gao Li gave an order, and the fireball drilled directly into the space magic circle, drilled out from the inside of the barrier, and bombarded the barrier with one shot. Bang! In the cabin, the faces of several magic masters changed. Someone broke our barrier? How is it possible? That's the power we exerted together. And it was so fast. There was no sign at all. To be honest, it is indeed difficult to attack head on, but Gao Li used a tricky method to break it from the inside through space magic. Of course, several magic masters must have also arranged a space magic interception barrier, but the effect of the barrier is limited to the existing magic system. Gori used a completely different magic system, which was like a loophole that bypassed the restrictions. When they all rushed outside, they were greeted by Gori and Zatanna with innocent faces. I'm sorry, I didn't expect the barrier to be so fragile. I just wanted to test it first, but I accidentally broke it. Gori apologized very sincerely, but it was a pity that the effect was 10 or even 9 points worse, and several magic masters used all their restraint to avoid beating him. Zyozap, why are you here? Guani, one of the magic masters, recognized Zatanna at a glance, and showed an extremely headache expression. I was going to ask you. Why did you leave me and disappear without a word? Guani suddenly had a headache and rubbed his eyebrows helplessly. There is a reason for this. I was trying to protect you, but now you. Okay, Guani. Since your daughter has come to the door, it seems that you can't avoid her. It's better to be honest. The middle-aged man in the windbreaker beside him advised gently, leaving Guani with a sigh. Okay, then you guys come in first. When everyone entered the house, they could see a shabby dressed man in the living room, who did not go out with them. It was Crispus Allen mentioned in the intelligence. This is Seijochi, this is Dead Boston, this is Dr. Kent of Fate, this is Phantom Stranger. Guani introduced the magic masters to Zatanna. Even those who were not magic masters were well-known super bosses in the magic world. Then he looked at Gori with ill intent, as if he was looking at a pig trying to eat his own cabbage. Who are you, kid? Chapter 29. Can you be called a young man if you are not angry? I'm Gori Wayne. Gori replied bluntly. You came to my territory, but you don't know the name of the host. Isn't that unreasonable as a guest? Guani was choked. If Gori was really from the Wayne family, then what he said was really right. As we all know, although there are no lords in modern society, the Wayne family is better than lords in Gotham, and its ruling status can definitely be called the king of Gotham City. Although Gori's existence is not known to outsiders yet, since Zatanna didn't refute it, it is probably true. So you are from the Wayne family, but I haven't heard that people from the Wayne family can use magic. Seijochi smiled gently, and Gori also gave up, and didn't continue to pester him. Since you have come to Gotham City, it seems that you are still looking for our Gotham City police. I think I have the right to know what you are going to do. Several magic masters looked at each other, and Phantom Stranger came forward and said, since you are also a magician, you must have heard of ghosts, right? Ghost? Gori pondered. What kind of ghosts are you referring to? Then you should go to the cemetery to find them. Stranger shook his head and said, not that kind of ghost. The ghost I'm referring to is a code name for a great existence. Ghost is the wrath of God, the embodiment of the Lord's wrath, but ghosts need a host, and this generation of host is Crispus Allen. Him? Is it the wrath of God? Gory looked at Alan with extreme suspicion. It's not that he looked down on Alan, but Alan now is more like a drunkard than the wrath of God. Stranger explained. He has just become a host for a short time, and the Lord's wrath is not so easy to adapt to, so he is like this. The reason why Stranger knows ghosts so well is that he actually belongs to the same camp of heaven as ghosts, and is called the original Sin Trio together with Pandora and the questioner who opened the magic box. The name Stranger may be unfamiliar, but the name Judas is well known around the world, and has almost become a synonym for traitor. However, Judas is just an identity that the Stranger once had. He is more like God's little black hand, responsible for secretly doing things for heaven. Zatanna didn't care about these, just looked at Guani. Father, you haven't explained why you suddenly left me and disappeared. Guani sighed. You see, we are all here to find the ghost, so you should understand that we have an extremely terrifying enemy to deal with. I will stay away from you in order to prevent you from being involved. I'm using this method to protect you, Zatanna. Zatanna said excitedly. Then can't you tell me? Do you know how much effort I have put in to find you? No. Guani said seriously. That is an unimaginable supreme existence. Even if you just mention his name, or even write it down, or convey a message about him, he may notice it. Zatanna was frightened for a while, until Gory patted her shoulder and she came back to her senses. Although I don't know which unspeakable evil god you are talking about, no matter what you want to do, don't do it in Gotham City. You are not welcome here. Gory said lightly. This is his city, and there are people he cares about living in it. He will never allow the Great War to happen in Gotham City. Young man, don't worry. We are only here to look for ghosts, not in Gotham. Dr. Fate was interrupted by Guani when he was halfway through his explanation. His eyes were fixed on Gory's hand on Zatanna's shoulder. Wayne boy, you'd better be polite in front of the great seniors in the magic world and take your hand off Zatanna's shoulder. Gory narrowed his eyes and felt that the infinity ring was about to move. Gory, don't. Zatanna held Gory's hand in a pleading manner. She didn't want her good friend to have a conflict with her father. However, this action made Guani's blood pressure rise sharply. Gory calmed down for Zatanna's sake, and after thinking for a moment, he said, how about this? Since we've come to your door, why don't you let us participate in your plan? You can also tell us about the enemy. Guani snorted coldly. Kit, I advise you not to be too angry. You don't know how high the sky is, and how thick the earth is. This plan is not something you can participate in, just because you want to. The enemy we have to deal with can even destroy the universe. Even if we gather all these magic masters, we have no chance of winning. You are not qualified at all. Can you be called a young man if you are not angry? Gory said lightly. You think I'm not strong enough after talking about it? That's simple. Let's see the truth with our hands. Gory. Father. Zatanna shouted anxiously, but Guani smiled happily. He had long wanted to find an excuse to beat Gory up. Zyozap, don't stop us. I want to teach the junior a lesson today and show him some color. Dr. Fate and Sage Ochi looked at each other and sighed helplessly. Stranger and Boston were not interested in this. After all, there is no comparison between a magic master and an ordinary magician. The result of this duel can be known in advance without watching it. Although Gory broke the magic barrier just now, with their knowledge, they also vaguely guessed that some tricks were used, otherwise it would not be so silent. If it was broken head on with hard power, the momentum should be earth-shattering, not so silent, so this does not explain Gory's fighting ability at all. Not long after, the two were standing in the wilderness outside the cabin, staring at each other covetously. Descendant of Leonardo da Vinci, anti-speech magic Guani John Zatara. Guani was a magic master after all. Even if he was teaching a young man a lesson, he would introduce himself first according to etiquette. I learned from Shitaro Ishimori, Night Magic Gory Wayne. Gory replied in a serious manner, which made Guani stunned. Not only him, but also the magic masters watching the battle were all confused. Who is Shitaro Ishimori? Is there such a magician? He is probably an unknown little character. After all, I have never heard of night magic. Then be careful, kid. Guani was about to start fighting when he saw Gori twist his belt and the belt began to chant. Shabadooby touch henshin, shabadooby touch henshin. Note 1. Guani. What the hell? Before he could finish wondering, Gori had already put the magician's ring on it, and a red magic circle appeared out of thin air. Transform. PS1. I added a setting here for the standby sound. This is the pre-spell that must be chanted for the transformation magic, which is similar to the automatic chanting spell. This is to rationalize the standby sound. It will be written in the next chapter. PS2. Thanks to Shanna for the 500-point reward. Chapter 30. I won't act anymore. Let's showdown. Flame. Please. Huo 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 huo. Fire. Please. The violent magic power surged up and turned into a gorgeous vestment armor covering Gao Li's body. This is. Several magic masters were amazed. It was a magic that they had never seen before. So that's it. The song at the beginning is a spell chant. The knowledgeable sage Ochi muttered to himself. It must be said that his vision is still very sharp. At the beginning of the development of the wizard driver, Gao Li also felt that the standby sound was too noisy, but when he studied it in depth, he found that it really couldn't be removed. Because the standby sound is the pre-spell of the night magic, it must be chanted. If you just want to activate the magic, you don't need this pre-spell, but if you want to activate the transformation magic, you must chant this spell first. If Gao Li doesn't let the driver chant automatically, he has to open the microphone on the spot, so of course Gao Li chooses to let the driver sing. Is he a magic warrior like Shazam? Guani's expression became serious. As the god of magic, Shazam was well known for his power. He could not help but take it seriously. Stay away. The magic of repulsion came out of his mouth. After all, according to Guani's idea, this kind of magic warrior would first rely on powerful speed to get close, and then use terrible power to attack. Sure enough, Gao Li was pushed away by a repulsive force just after he started, and his legs plowed 2 trenches on the ground. It's really a magic warrior. Ordinary people would have been blown away long ago, and it's impossible for them to be unscathed like him. But the strength is limited, not so amazing. Guani felt that he saw through everything and smiled with a sure victory. Obviously, this young man could not compare with the famous Shazam. As a magic warrior, he was more than 1 level lower. This was also natural. Otherwise, wouldn't the wizard Shazam have been in vain at such an old age? Next, as long as he didn't get close to him, he would win. Stab the ice blades. Guani took the initiative, and countless sharp ice blades flew towards Gao Li like a rain of knives. At this time, Gao Li also equipped his rings, and with a wave of his hand, a green magic circle appeared in front of him. Storm, please. Storm. A strong wind blew from behind him, blowing away all the ice blades. The surrounding grass was pierced one after another, leaving large white traces. But this is not over yet. The fiery red magic circle followed closely. Fire, please. Fire. With the power of the storm, the fire quickly rose sharply, turning into a tsunami-like flame, and rushing towards Guani. Huh? So fast? Guani was surprised, but as a magic master, he was experienced and chanted softly without panic. Linjiang Ocean. Huge waves rose from the horizon, colliding with the firestorm, and a hissing sound was heard in the splashing of steam. Not good. Several magic masters who were watching the battle took action at the same time, and a barrier rose from the ground to block the wooden house, preventing it from being damaged by the remaining power. Gori and Guani have been fighting each other for several rounds, exchanging magic attacks. Fire, water, ice, and lightning interweave in the air to form a spectacular picture. Their magic not only attacks each other, but also affects the surrounding environment. The woods are set on fire, the valleys are frozen, and the grass is torn. This kid from the Wayne family is not simple. Dr. Fate Kent was amazed. The casting speed is so fast. Indeed, among the magicians I have seen, his magic activation speed can also be ranked in the top 5. Sage Ochi nodded in agreement. He rarely saw a magician who could cast spells as fast as irony magic. After all, irony magic is almost the most simplified spell. It seems that his teacher, Shitaro Ishimori, is very powerful. It seems that he has refined the spell and formed the spell with a special structure of magic name plus please. It is very difficult to do this. Why have we never heard of his name? Stranger has the widest knowledge and is therefore the most troubled. He has lived for a long time and should not have no impression of such masters. Maybe he is more low-key. Boston spoke for the first time, and although Wayne is not low-key, his strength cannot keep up with his high profile, and he is already at a disadvantage. Kent nodded in agreement. Yes, no matter how simple his magic is, it can't match the speed of irony magic. It also needs a ring to activate, and an additional please chant. What Dr. Fate can think of, Guani, who is also a master of magic, naturally sees it clearly, and his heart is full of relief and joy. No way, no way. You dare to fight against the irony magic with this casting speed? Didn't you learn about our family's secret magic from Zaroza? No wonder, young people are just as arrogant as you said. You think you have a unique simplified magic and dare to challenge the peak. It's good for you to suffer a loss early. Guani even had the leisure to mock in the intervals between attacks, but Gao Li shook his head and sighed. I wanted to save you some face and fight you as an ordinary magician, but I didn't expect to get contempt in return. As Gao Li said, he put on 2 more rings on his hands. In that case, I won't pretend anymore. Who said I can only cast 1 magic at a time? Huh. Guani was stunned and saw 3 magic circles of different colors overlapping each other around Gao Li. Magma, please. Lava, thunder, please. Lightning, defend, please. Defense. The 3 spells sounded almost at the same time. The flame barrier first offset Guana's attack, followed by the extremely terrifying elemental baptism. The earth suddenly cracked, erupting terrifying magma, and countless lightning bolts fell from the sky, forming a trap with the magma. It's actually a multiple chant. Guana's pupils shrank suddenly, and he quickly chanted the anti-speech magic, and then he was drowned in the earth-shaking power. The sudden increase in the offensive also made the magic masters watching the battle startled. This gory Wayne. He was obviously fighting against the magic master, but he dared to hide his weakness? Exclamation mark. But it must be said that this sudden move was indeed beautiful. If they were on the field, they would probably be caught off guard. Can he cast spells at the same time? Could it be that his magic is? Seijochi stared at the belt around Gore's waist. There was a black hand on it. It was probably the core of his magic, similar to a staff. Dr. Fate also thought of this, and his face changed slightly. If the hand has a special conceptual or symbolic meaning, I'm afraid he can cast more than 3 spells at the same time. In magic rituals, the meaning represented by special objects is extremely important and often has a very special compositional meaning. Gore's magic is composed of a palm and a ring. According to their common sense of magic, it is very likely that the maximum number of spells he can cast will meet the number of 5 fingers. Chapter 31 I'm going to throw some dust in your eyes. Just as they thought, with in-depth research and the blessing of the Lord of Magic, Gao Li has reached the pinnacle of night magic cultivation. Therefore, not only is his magic powerful, but the number of spells he can cast is also the full match of his palm. With a light touch of his left hand, his right hand is already full of 5 rings like magic. Let me show you my 5 escapes great linking bullet technique again. Ahem. I was careless. At this time, Guani had just appeared in the smoke and dust, and finally defended at the critical moment. He was secretly glad that he didn't lose the face of the magic master, and then he saw 5 more exaggerated magic circles have covered the battlefield layer by layer. Metal, please. Metal, wood, please. Wood, water, please. Water, fire, please. Fire, earth, please. Earth. Guani's face suddenly changed wildly. This madman. The 5 mutually generated elements circulated and combined into a destructive storm of destruction, filling the space of 1 or 200 meters in radius. Boom boom boom. There was only a terrifying roar sweeping between heaven and earth, and even the wooden house under the protection of the barrier was shaky. It's outrageous that you can launch 5 magics at the same time. Guani's figure flashed, and he had teleported to the side of several magic masters. Facing the power of the 5-element great continuation bomb, even he could hardly resist it with irony magic alone. Fortunately, the most powerful thing about irony magic is that it has enough freedom and launch speed, such as space teleportation and dodge, which is just a matter of words. Haha, you are frustrated now, right? Seijochi teased his old friend with a smile. How does it feel to suffer at the hands of the younger generation? Guan's old face darkened, and he didn't want to pay attention to Seijochi at all. Now you've learned a lesson. You know there are always better magics, right? There are actually magics in the world that are faster than your irony magic. You've learned something new. Dr. Fate didn't miss the rare opportunity to tease him and joined in immediately. In terms of the speed of releasing a single spell, the knight's magic that needs to rely on the ring and the please spell is not as good as the irony magic. But Gao Li can release so many spells at the same time. Even the irony magic can only release one effect in one sentence. In this time, Gao Li has already stacked 5 spells together. Humph, it's just a mindless stacking of numbers to make miracles happen. There is no technical content at all. Although Guani was sweating profusely on his back just now, he was still very tough in front of his daughter. He couldn't lose face in front of his daughter, no matter what he threw. It's just like my space movement just now, which is a more brilliant method than his night magic. No matter how powerful his magic is, it's meaningless if it can't hit anyone. Guani frantically tried to increase his persuasiveness, and Zatanna was hesitant to speak beside him. At this time, the 5-element Great Link bombs also stopped, and a huge deep pit surrounded Gory, but Gory himself was still unscathed. Oh, so this is the effect of his transformation into a magic warrior. Boston suddenly realized and said, the defense provided alone is enough for him to ignore the aftermath and cast spells at will. For example, the irony magic can also achieve super high powered attacks, but it must be considered that it will not affect itself, and it is subject to a certain degree of restriction. The night magic can plow all the surroundings unscrupulously. Guan's expression suddenly became more ugly. Which side are you on? Why do you let others' prestige destroy your own arrogance? It doesn't matter. Guani emphasized again, I have space magic. What's affected or not affected is meaningless to me. After saying that, he didn't want to give his old friends another chance to hurt him, so he immediately activated magic and teleported back to the battlefield. Boy, you're not bad, but you still can't touch a hair on me. This is the difference in experience. Gao Li was speechless for a moment. Didn't you also not touch a hair on me? Ah, right. You said it. I'm tired of fighting too, so it's better to quickly enter the finale. Gao Li responded perfunctorily while changing a few rings on his hand, and then suddenly raised the magician's sword and gun to shoot. This was the first time Gao Li used a new method, and Guani had been scared by Gao Li's previous hiding, and suspected that there was a trick, and didn't choose to take it head on. He's behind me. As soon as the voice fell, Guani disappeared on the spot, and Gao Li also activated magic instantly. There. With the keen perception of magic power by the Lord of Magic Power, Gao Li immediately caught the spatial fluctuations, and the 2 magic circles overlapped. Connect, please. Just great magic touch go. Super best. Kick strike. Perfect. Gao Li's feet were blazing with fire, and he did a backflip and kicked towards the connecting magic circle. On the other side, Guani had just finished moving in space and appeared, and before he could breathe a sigh of relief, another connecting magic circle appeared in front of him. What? Guani was shocked, but he didn't even have time to say half a word, because Gao Li's night kick had already crossed the space and kicked over. Under Guani's horrified eyes, the blazing flames passed by him and fell heavily behind him, exploding into a cloud of dust. Boom. The shockwave of the explosion directly blew him away, and Guani fell in a mess and rolled several times in the distance, opening his mouth and closing his eyes in pain. The winner is decided. Gory took off the ring leisurely and cancelled the transformation. Only then did Guani grit his teeth and stood up stubbornly, angrily saying, "Asshole, do you really want to kill me? Why do you say that?" Gory spread his hands innocently. "If I really wanted to kill you, you would have turned into ashes and scattered them in other people's eyes. You." Veins popped out on Guani's forehead, and the magic power on his body surged. Zatanna ran over and hugged him. "Wait, Dad. Stop fighting. Let go. I haven't even used half of my skills yet." How could Guani obey? Losing in front of other people is one thing, but this time he was defeated miserably in front of his daughter. It was a complete disgrace, and he had no face left. I thought it wasn't a life and death fight, but just a lesson for the younger generation, so I held back, but this kid. Dad, Zatanna whispered, Gori has held back for my sake. Otherwise. She recalled the shock of that day, and in order to keep Gori a secret, she could only whisper vaguely, otherwise. Gori's truly powerful magic, in terms of magic power, is more than 10 times stronger than before. 10 times, so what? 10 times? Guani gradually relaxed his struggle, looked at Zatanna's serious expression, that didn't seem fake, and slowly opened his mouth. P.S. Thank you for the 100-point reward. Thank you for the 600-point reward. Chapter 30 To the Ultimate Darkness, the Giant Ferocious Beast. After the actual combat, Gao Li found that he had underestimated the night magic, that he had performed himself. If it were any other night magician, even if they transformed into Kamen Rider, it would be difficult to match the flexible and powerful irony magic with just the basic form. Not to mention the magic master Guani, most likely even Zatanna would not be able to beat him, and he had to use the enhanced form to have a chance of winning. Gao Li himself was different. First, he was the developer of night magic, and his knowledge and cultivation had reached the pinnacle. Second, he was the master of night magic, and his status was so high that he could control the magic at will. With the double blessing, the strength of the magic he used alone was several times more than that of the average night magician. In addition, the maximum 5 consecutive openings and multiple chants at the same time allowed him to even crush irony magic in terms of casting speed, making it easy for him to match the magic master. This is just the basic form of Kamen Rider Wizard. If the endless style is used, then Gao Li can just say to the magic masters present, come on, I want to fight 10 of them. When Gao Li sighed, Guani had already surrendered with a reluctant expression. As for Gao Li just now, although he admitted that he was indeed very strong as a master of irony magic, Guani would never be afraid. But if the strength is increased tenfold, victory and defeat are common in the military. Winning or losing is a small problem, and it would be bad if the aftermath of the fight hurts my daughter. Let's let this kid go for now. What do you mean? Do you really want Gao Li Wayne to join? Seijochi came over and asked. He didn't care whether Gao Li would join them. It's not that Seijochi despises Gao Li, but in front of the enemy they are about to face, more or less Gao Li is almost the same. Guani was silent, and after thinking for a few seconds with a complicated expression, he sighed. Let's talk alone first. That's fine, but if you want to break the contract or default on the debt, don't put the blame on us. Guani's eyes widened. Do you think I would do this? My heart hurts. With an angry expression, Guani waved to Gao Li. Boy, come here. Gao Li pretended not to see or hear. After a while of glaring, Guani reluctantly said to Zatanna, Little Zap, call your little boyfriend over here. This sentence was said with great gritted teeth, making Zatanna's cheeks red. Dad, he and I are just ordinary friends. Okay, anyway, just call him over. When Gao Li really came in front of him, Guani pondered for a moment, hesitated again and again, and coughed as if inadvertently. Ahem. Just now my old friends all agreed that you are too disrespectful to the seniors in the magic world, so they disagree with you. Gao Li immediately turned around and shouted to several magic masters, Mr. Guani said you. Wait a minute. Guani hurriedly grabbed him. Okay, I don't want you to join us. Gao Li looked back at him. Why? Personal grudges? Guani was silent for a long time before he said, no, but it is indeed due to personal feelings. I don't want Zero ZHA to get involved, and you are Zero ZHA's boyfriend. Friend, if you die because of this, Zero ZHA will probably be sad and blame me. Gao Li frowned and said, didn't Zero ZHA tell you my true strength? You can't even beat me, but you dare to get involved. What makes you say that I might die because of this? This time Guani didn't stick to his words, but completely let go of his face and said sincerely, I admit that you are very powerful. I really have to sigh that the new generation pushes the old generation forward. If Zero ZHA is entrusted to you, I can at least feel at ease. But, Dad, I told you we are friends. Zatanna interrupted in embarrassment and annoyance. And don't say such words that sound like entrusting your child to someone else. If you really feel there is danger, then withdraw and don't go any deeper. Guani said seriously. If we can't stop the evil witch group, then even if I protect myself, I won't see the arrival of tomorrow. Not only me, but also you and everyone in the world. Gory Wayne may be as strong as you say, but this strength is just a drop in the bucket for our real enemy. Even 100 or 1,000 of him will be useless. So your words are simply inconsistent. Gory said lightly, since so many of me are useless, will adding one of you be useful? And you want to increase your chances of winning as much as possible, and don't want to withdraw, but you don't want to let Zyros out, and I participate, because of personal feelings, so you might as well listen to what others say. After that, Gory walked directly to the magic masters in the distance. He finally understood that he couldn't get anything from Guani. After talking nonsense for a long time, he didn't even want to tell him who the real enemy was. After all, Guani had said before that even mentioning his name could be detected, so naturally he didn't want to reveal any information. Hey. Seeing this, Guani was anxious and angry, so he could only chase after him with Zatanna. That's the thing. You probably don't have as much personal feelings as Mr. Zatanna. Why don't you just tell us who you want to fight against as agreed? Dr. Fate, Seijochi, and Ed Boston looked at each other and finally nodded, considering the amazing skills that Gory had just shown. Okay, then I'll tell you. Dr. Fate said, in short, we need to stop an ancient wizard group called the Evil Coven. The Evil Coven wants to hold a ceremony to awaken the object of their worship, the ultimate darkness of the universe, the giant beast. It is said that the giant beast is Kent. Don't mention his name. Suddenly, the helmet worn by Dr. Fate emitted a golden light, and another heavier voice came out from it. Oh my god, the helmet has become a spirit. It's mutated. Gao Li subconsciously took out the infinite magician ring and almost exorcised the demon on the spot. Wait a minute. Seijochi hurriedly stopped him. This is the god of order Nabu, the source of Dr. Fate's power. He didn't want Alan's cabin to be blown up, and he didn't want Gao Li to rashly offend God Nabu. After all, that was the big brother of the order god system. No matter how strong Gao Li was as a magician, offending the real gods would never end well. Seijochi couldn't bear to see a young man with a promising future fall. Kent also said, yes, you can understand that I'm the messenger of God Nabu, and when I use the power of order, I'm Dr. Fate. Oh, I understand. Gao Li simply understood it, that is to say, Kent is the host, and the helmet spirit is a system, so he can add some points to him, right? Chapter 33 Lord of Order, God King of Nabu. In fact, Nabu is far more than what Seijochi said. He is almost the leader of all pure human gods of law throughout the ages, and is also the current guardian of the human race. For example, the core members of the order god system he established are all gods of law advanced by human mages, and they are transformed into 8 sets of artifacts made of the 9th metal. The one that Nabu is inhabiting is the helmet artifact located in the position of God King. In short, Nabu is more like the supreme sorcerer in the DC world, and is also at the super standard level of Ancient One. Although Nabu didn't know what Gao Li understood, he felt uncomfortable for some reason, and the ring on his hand made Nabu feel uncomfortable for some reason. Kent, there is no need to let any more extraneous people join. Those who are self-important after achieving a little magic will only do harm. Gao Li raised his eyebrows when he heard this. This god who suddenly appeared was obviously the first time they met. Why did he sound as if he was disgusted with him? This unprovoked malice was really inexplicable, and Gao Li certainly didn't indulge him. That's where I object. Since you are sure that you don't need any help to join, why didn't you dare to even mention the enemy's name just now? What did you say? Nabu God is not a good-tempered person. His helmet flew off Kent's head immediately, releasing a heavy divine power. The air suddenly felt as heavy as lead. Although he is the guardian of mankind, he also has his own selfishness. He is used to being in a high position and can't stand any offensive words. Please calm down, Nabu God. Guani hurriedly stood in the middle. Young people are quick to speak. Please forgive me. Dr. Fate and Seijochi were also sweating. If Nabu God really wanted to take action, They couldn't protect Gao Li at all. Gao Li was also suffocated by the momentum, and for a moment he felt stiff all over. It was just like a creature in nature facing its natural enemy, feeling the absolute gap in the level of life. Is this the real god? This thought flashed through Gao Li's mind. This is a higher creature that is completely different from humans. I'm really curious. The next second, a magical power of the endless style was automatically activated and flowed from the ring to Gao Li's whole body. Nabu was also a magician before he became a god. Like Thunder Shazam, he was a standard human who practiced to become a god of magic. Therefore, his divine power contained a great deal of magic. This caused the magic part in it to be invalidated first, when it came into contact with the endless magic, and then the order divine power was like a building that was missing a lot of load-bearing walls, and began to collapse and disintegrate irreversibly. In an instant, Gao Li felt refreshed again. His waist and legs were no longer sore, and he stood straight. This also made Gao Li feel at ease. Magic is indeed the most widely spread power, and a part of it is mixed in almost everywhere. Get out of here. Nabu said in a deep voice, if you offend the true god, you deserve to be killed. Gao Li was so anxious that he didn't know what to do. Even he was not arrogant enough to think he could fight against Nabu. At this time, Gao Li patted his shoulder and pulled Gao Li behind him. Am I wrong? Or can't you listen to the truth? According to the masters, the giant beast may even destroy the universe. The importance of the relationship cannot tolerate any mistakes. Gao Li certainly didn't want to make an enemy, but since the giant beast would endanger the people he cared about and himself, he had to figure it out. This was something he absolutely could not tolerate. Gao Li, you. Gao Li looked at Gao Li with a normal face in surprise. Kent and Seijochi were also very surprised. Not to mention them, even Stranger and Boston, who had always stayed out of it, couldn't help but look over. This Gao Li was so resistant to the oppression of the power of the Lord of Order? Question mark? Especially for the magic masters who were close to him. Nabu did not target them, but the residual power of his aura alone made their hair stand on end. Boy, you are quite capable. Nabu God was puzzled, but he quickly put it aside and snorted. Of course I'm not joking about this matter. I came to find the ghost, just to make sure there are no mistakes. As he spoke, under the stimulation of the power of order, the ghosts were also awakened from Alan's body. With a flash of light, Alan had turned into a half-naked muscular man wearing a green cloak, and glanced at everyone present with great pride. I already know about the giant beast. You don't need to do anything. I can easily suppress it by myself. Gao Li exclaimed when he heard it. God Nabu was already very arrogant, and now he has become even more arrogant. Ghost, are you sure? Stranger asked with a frown. The ghost said proudly, who do you think I am? I'm the wrath of God. There is no rival in front of the Lord's wrath. He is even better than the god Nabu. Not to mention Gao Li, the ghost didn't take anyone present seriously at all. To him, they were all garbage, not even a bonus. Okay, it seems that you really don't need me. And after all, dealing with the giant beast is only the worst case. Before that, we just need to find and destroy the evil witch group. Gao Li took a deep breath and controlled his emotions. It seems that the most famous ghosts and Nabu both acted as if he was nothing. Gao Li didn't have the bad habit of putting his face on a hot butt. Gao Li was relieved when he heard this. It's a wise judgment. Take Zatanna away. Gao Li shook his head and took Zatanna away. After they left the cabin, Zatanna was still worried and looked back every few steps. It was obvious that she was very worried about her father. Seeing this, Gao Li comforted her. Relax, they seem quite confident. You are not even a magic master, so it is better to stay out of it for safety. To be honest, if the magic masters had not gathered in Gotham at first, but in some other city, Gao Li would not even follow Zatanna. Although he had the endless mode as a guarantee, he was not blindly arrogant. But the subsequent understanding of the giant beast forced Gao Li to go deeper. After all, it is said that it can destroy the universe. Gao Li and the people and things he cares about can't avoid it no matter what. Then, Zatanna opened her mouth. Are we just going to ignore it? Who said I don't care? You can't put all your eggs in one basket. I won't put all my hopes on them. I'm always well prepared. As Gao Li spoke, he took out a few magic rings from his pocket to cast a spell. Garuda, please. unicorn, please. Kraken, please. The 3 rings immediately turned into 3 little animals, red, blue, and yellow, flying up to the sky, burrowing into the ground, and jumping into the sewer. What is this? Zatanna asked curiously. So cute. Gory explained. These are the familiars I summoned, Garuda, unicorn, and Kraken. They will help me search for the traces of the evil witch group, just covering the land, sea, and air. As long as the evil witch group is found and killed in advance, the crisis of the giant beast will naturally be solved. Chapter 34, Searching for Superman, God on Earth. After hearing what Gory said, Zatanna immediately understood that summoning familiars was a routine operation for a wizard. Will it be enough to rely on just the 3 of them? It should be very hard. You make sense. And the sooner we find the evil witch group, the better. Gory nodded and took out another ring. Copy, please. Under the cover of the magic circle, the second Gory appeared beside him and repeated the spell. Copy, please. Copy, please. Copy, please. In this way, 2 became 4, 4 became 8, 8 became 16, until there were hundreds of Gorys densely surrounding the stunned Zatanna. Trypophobia is about to strike. Then a large group of Gorys cast spells one after another, and each of them released a large number of familiars, causing the familiars to spread out like a swarm of locusts. Well, this should be enough. Gory lifted the magic with satisfaction, and turned back into a person again. Zatanna hesitated to speak. Gory, is your magic power okay? You have to know that those clones just now were not illusions, but entities with magic power that can use magic. Think about the spell just now. It is equivalent to Gory creating thousands of temporary rings, summoning thousands of familiars, and injecting magic power into them thousands of times. The consumption of this magic power is simply terrifying. Huh? What can happen to me? Gory frowned and felt it, but after hearing what you said, I'm indeed a little tired now. Zatanna was stunned. Well, he really deserves to be the second Lord of Magic Power. The gold content is high. So what are your plans next? Are you going back to Metropolis? Gory shook his head and said, no, I plan to go to a small town in Kansas again. Do you want to come with me? Zatanna was stunned. We can come together, but what are you going to do? Didn't I say that? I have always been well prepared and never put all my hopes on one place. What I just said was just to defeat the evil witch group in advance. I also have to prepare for the worst case scenario after the giant beast is really summoned. As soon as he finished speaking, Gory himself felt a little weird. Why is this style so much like Batman? Is he a master? If the giant beast is really as powerful as my father said, it would have been beyond the scope of human beings to deal with. Only gods like Nabu and Ghost could deal with it. What else can you prepare? That's just a coincidence. Gory smiled slightly. It just so happens that I know there is a god on Earth. When the two stepped on the land of Smallville, Zatanna was still curious. The god of the world you mentioned is in such an ordinary town. If there really is such a god, then the magic masters should have found him long ago. Gao Li said a little uncertainly. After all, I didn't see him in Metropolis, so I think he should still be here, but I don't know how much he has grown now. Although Gao Li vaguely remembered that Superman's magic resistance seemed to be very low, Superman was one of the absolute protagonists of this world. In other words, he had a bit of the flavor of the Son of Destiny. If there was really a crisis of world destruction, Gao Li thought that finding the protagonist of the world and tying him to the chariot would be somewhat useful, right? And Superman is a clear alien creature Kryptonian, and Gao Li has always been interested in him, to be honest, interested in research. Just like boys can't resist the temptation of giant robots, which scientists can resist the temptation of exploring aliens? Gao Li and Zatanna found a tavern at random. This kind of mixed place has always been a good place to get information. Hey, do you know how to get to the Kent family in town? I mean the Kent family who runs a farm. Gory randomly grabbed a bartender and started asking questions, and the bartender's expression immediately became alert. Who are you? The more closed the country town is, the more xenophobic the locals are, especially Gory, who can tell from his accent that he is a foreigner. Seeing this, Zatanna rolled her eyes at Gory. Do you know how to ask questions? This is too abrupt. No wonder people are on guard. After giving Gori a look that said, "Let me do it instead," Zatanna greeted him with a smile. "We are friends of the Kent family. We wanted to visit him, but we are unfamiliar with the place and got a little lost, so." The bartender said bluntly, "Then why don't you call them to pick you up?" Zatanna's smile froze on her face, and Gori turned his head away, his shoulders shaking. "Fortunately, I almost laughed out loud. Actually, it's because we are." Zatanna was still racking her brains to come up with a patch when she saw Gori's hand stretched out in front of her, holding a dozen $100 bills. "Tell us, and the money will be yours." It's not that he doesn't know how to ask questions, but he feels that it's unnecessary. What could be simpler than using money to pave the way? Sure enough, the bartender's eyes were wide open, and he couldn't help swallowing his saliva. These days, bartenders have a pair of sharp eyes and can identify the counterfeit bills of those hooligans who want to get something for free, so they can naturally see that the dozen of US dollars is as real as it can be. Under the pressure of huge interests, the bartender's vigilance was completely broken, and he instantly pointed Gori to the Kent farm with the best service attitude. "It's just..." At the end, the bartender hesitated and attached a piece of news. "It seems that there are some very strange rumors about his son recently." "Oh? Tell me in detail. I love to hear it." Gori threw out another dozen of bills, making the bartender smile. "Of course, I'm happy to help you, generous sir. I heard that his son dropped out of school recently, and it seems to be related to the accident of the school bus he was riding in. Not long ago, their school bus had an accident and rushed directly into the lake, but the strange thing is that no one was injured or killed, and everyone was safe." Zatanna was puzzled. "Isn't that a good thing? How can it be called a strange rumor?" The bartender explained. "The rumor came from the students who were in the school bus at the time. They basically recalled that the school bus had completely sunk into the lake, and many people even drowned and lost consciousness. But for some reason, the school bus was miraculously pushed back to the shore. A few students who were holding their breath said that they vaguely saw Clark Kent go out of the car and swim at the rear of the car. Oh yes, Clark is the boy from the Kent family. Anyway, Clark hasn't been to school since then. Many people think he might be a human transformed by a water monster. In short, it's very weird. Clark Kent is exactly the person Gori is looking for. Zatanna has heard about him before." When she heard the real person appear, her eyes suddenly lit up. It seems that Clark was the one who pushed the school bus back to the shore. He really has extraordinary abilities. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35 FBI. Open the door. On the way to the Kent farm, Zatanna and Gori were in a heated discussion. "So how should we start the conversation?" Millimeters. FBI. Open the door. What a mess. What if there is a misunderstanding? How about saying we are sending warmth to the community? The Kents must know the residents in their community. They won't believe it. That won't work, so why not just say we are sending Dongfeng Express? Zatanna sighed. Can you think of a more serious idea? What's wrong with pretending to be a courier? Gori said dissatisfiedly. How about this? Do you know any hypnotic magic? Just hypnotize them directly. I don't have this kind of magic anyway. Zatanna rolled her eyes at him. If you want to be a villain, go ahead and be one yourself. I still have my own moral bottom line. I won't hypnotize others randomly. Gori rolled his eyes at her. When he heard this, he was obviously telling the truth. He really didn't create a hypnotic magic ring. He did have a sleep aiding ring, but it could only make the magician himself fall asleep. Seeing that Kent farm was just around the corner, the two of them gathered their thoughts and walked to the door and knocked. "Hello, is anyone home?" Soon, a middle-aged man with bloodshot eyes came to open the door. It was Clark's adoptive father. He asked in a muffled voice, "Who are you, and what do you want?" According to the information that Gori had gathered, Jonathan Kent was always very polite and kind to outsiders, but now he was so rude and unkempt, it seemed that he was really troubled by some trouble. "We are very interested in your farm, and are willing to buy it at a high price. Not for sale. Goodbye." Seeing that Jonathan was about to close the door, Gary quickly stuck his foot in the crack of the door. Just kidding, just kidding. Actually, we are Clark Kent's friends and want to go out with him. Is he home? Jonathan's emotions suddenly became excited, looking for Clark again. You bastards, don't disturb our lives anymore. Get out. After that, he pushed Gary out of the door by force and slammed the door. Gori and Zatanna looked at each other, and Zatanna shrugged and said, "You look like a rich or noble person. You don't look like a small town resident at all. No wonder you were seen through at a glance." Gori scratched his head. It seems that there must be a lot of reporters and the like who heard the news and made the Kent family very upset, right? That's why he reacted so strongly. As they talked, the two of them retreated to a place far away from the Kent farm, intending to discuss what to do. Zyozap, I don't really want to use special means on ordinary people, but we have to find someone anyway. Let's discuss it. The key is that, if the young Superman misunderstands, the consequences will be very serious. Zatanna clapped her hands. I have a plan. We don't use magic on the Kents, but we can use magic on ourselves. Just change our appearance, pretend to be a student's parent, to visit and thank them. After all, they are guests who come with gratitude. Jonathan can't be so angry and drive them out, right? Good plan. But I want to modify it a little. Gori gave her a thumbs up. Why don't we become a couple in their 70s and 80s? Even if he pushes us intentionally, he won't dare to use force. It's better for him to push us, and then we will just lie on the ground. Let's see what he can do to us. Isn't he just kneeling on the ground begging us not to die? I mean, isn't he just respectfully taking us into his house to rest? Zatanna was surprised and admired deeply. Great plan. It really has some of the style of Constantine and other scumbags in the world. It's true that people get red when they are around red and black when they are around black. Is this a compliment or an insult? Gori scratched his chin and thought about it, and simply broke the jar. Put aside the scum and disdain. Just tell me if it works. Zatanna had to pinch her nose and admit that it did sound very effective. Gori immediately took out 2 prepared rings, one for changing appearance and the other for changing clothes. After the magic circle flashed, Gori and Zatanna had transformed into an elderly couple. Each of them looked old and fragile, and their bodies were light and weak and easy to be pushed down. Remember, our trick is to knock him down with one touch. Never give him a chance to react. Be fast, accurate, ruthless. It's best if you use irony magic to disguise some bruises and swelling, or make some dubbing of fractures. Zatanna's conscience almost couldn't listen to it. Fortunately, the two had walked back to the door of the Kent family. Knock, knock. Who is it again? Jonathan opened the door unhappily, and when he saw that it was an elderly couple, he couldn't help but lower his voice. Good afternoon, what can I do for you? Gori said in a trembling voice. Good afternoon, Mr. Kent. I'm Bruce's grandfather. Bruce was also on the school bus at the time. He said that Clark saved him, and we came to thank him. Jonathan hesitated for a moment, as if thinking about how to organize the words. That should be an illusion he had underwater, right? After all, Clark is just a child. How could he be saved? You guys should go back. It's okay. It's okay for us to meet Clark in person. Bruce said Clark was very nice to him at school. You won't reject this pitiful wish of an old man, right? Gori was getting more and more demanding, and looking at his skinny body, Jonathan didn't dare to push him, so he could only be forced into the entrance. Helplessly, Jonathan said, Clark is not at home now, you two go back. Zatanna then offered assistance. We are old, and have no strength left. Can you let us rest for a while? Jonathan sighed when he heard that, and took the initiative to reach out and support Gori and Zatanna. Then I'll help you two old people. I'll pour you a cup of tea later. You can rest in the living room first. After sitting on the sofa, looking at Jonathan's back as he poured tea, Gori whispered teasingly, I didn't expect you to be so skilled. Zatanna blushed. I can't help it. After all, I still have to get information from him. I can still tell the priorities of things. At this time, Martha Kent, who also looked very haggard, came down from the second floor and helped her husband entertain Gori and Zatanna. After a while, the couple sat down with tea and snacks. Gori asked at the right time, I heard from Bruce that Clark dropped out of school, but he was not at home. Did he go out to play? Martha shook her head. We don't know where Clark went either. Recently he. At this point, Martha forced herself to hold back, but her eyes became obviously redder, and Jonathan also held her hand comfortingly. This made Gory very curious. It seemed that the trouble was not only from the outside world. Could it be that Clark himself had problems? Chapter 36 Evil Superman. The four of them chatted for a while before Gory and Zatanna found a chance to say goodbye. They spent most of their time chatting about family matters, not much about Clark. As the saying goes, too much is as bad as too little, and being too obvious will only alert the Kents. However, Gory still got some useful information, which is that Clark's temperament suddenly changed for some reason recently, and he even injured Jonathan. It sounds so different from the Superman I know. Is he in his rebellious teenage years? Gory fell into deep thought, while Zatanna was disappointed. If the god on Earth is what the Kents say, then he is just a teenager with some superpowers, and can't help at all. It was difficult for Gory to explain to her the special meaning of Superman, and Zatanna probably didn't understand the term Son of Destiny, so she could only shrug without comment. Since we are here, let's find him first. Zatanna spread her hands and said, you have a lot of money, you have the final say, what should we do next? Gory thought for a while and said, I heard from the Kents that Clark used to be a good kid who only went between home and school. Then his main interpersonal relationships should be at school. Let's go to his school and see. Maybe we can ask something from his friends. After all, some people go to secret bases when they are upset. They may not tell their parents, but they are likely to tell their good friends and brothers. Zatanna looked at her watch and said, it's getting late. If we don't go to school, it will probably be over. Let's go. The two rushed to Smallwell Middle School where Clark studied. Before they got close to the school gate, they could already feel that something was wrong. It was because there was chaos ahead. Not only could they see thick black smoke rising from a long distance, but they could also see a large number of students running out in panic. What's going on? Zatanna asked in surprise. Did a school shooting happen? This is also an American characteristic, which made Gory speechless. Zyozap, you are not American. Why do you react so American? Zatanna was even more speechless. Who said I'm not American? Although my father is Italian, I was born in San Francisco. Although the two were chatting, they actually quickened their pace and arrived at the school in a short while. Only then did they see clearly that there was a raging fire on the campus, and the fire alarm was still ringing. Put out the fire first. Zatanna asked Gory with her eyes. Gory shook his head and said, don't worry. The energy fluctuations of these flames are very abnormal. They don't look like natural fires. If you put out the fire abruptly, you might alert the enemy. The students and teachers should have run away. You can use magic to rescue them. Remember to avoid the source of the fire. Then we can go over quietly to take a look. Zatanna was surprised and said, you can even sense this? Aren't you just the master of magic? How can you sense energy? That is not magic. Of course I can only sense magic, Gory explained, but I just need to spread the magic and feel how it is affected by other energies. Then I can tell whether it is a natural fire or a special energy. Zatanna could only call Gory's operation awesome. This kind of indirect and fine sensing, according to common sense, no magician can do it, but Gory made it look as simple as eating and drinking. At the same time, Zatanna also accumulated a lot of magic power, took a deep breath and said, the outside school has been completely safe and the fire has been flying out of the scene. The outsiders have been eliminated. This kind of large-scale operation magic did not consume much of Zatanna's magic power. It seems that almost everyone has already successfully evacuated. Let's go, Pipizza. Gory closed his eyes and sensed it, and ran towards the source of the magic power that was most disturbed by the special energy. Zatanna followed closely behind him. In fact, after running for a while, Gory's sense was no longer needed, because there was a lively fight in front of him. From a distance, it seemed that two figures were confronting each other. One was surrounded by raging flames, and the other was holding a car with one hand. We found the real owner. Let's observe secretly. With the cooperation of the fire alarm, Gory took Zatanna to hide in the corner openly. The two watched as the man who lifted the car threw it over, and the other side instantly rolled a big fireball. to intercept it in midair, immediately igniting the gasoline in the car and causing a huge explosion. The one who can lift the car should be Clark Kent, but I don't know who he is fighting with. Gory touched his chin in confusion. Before Superman debuted, wasn't he just an ordinary young man in a small town? It turns out that he has fought such a powerful enemy. No matter who he is dangerous enough. Although his strength is not as good as that of a magic master, it is not worse than that of a magic master who specializes in fire spells, and Clark looks just strong. Don't we really need to help him? There was no need to wait for Gory to answer. Soon the facts told Zatanna the answer. The fire controller condensed a roaring fire dragon as high as a person and rushed towards Clark. Clark not only did not dodge, but went straight up. With a boom explosion, the fire dragon was directly exploded on the spot, and the spreading shock wave also made the fire controller fall down in embarrassment. Hehe. It's really disgusting. Coach Oaks, where is your superior attitude when facing me before? Why aren't you so arrogant this time? Clark laughed happily, mocking the dusty Oaks. Why are you silent? Huh. When you beat me last week, you definitely never thought that you would be forced to this point by me now. Ha 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 ha. This is what you deserve. Clark seemed to be getting more and more excited. With his high emotions, even his eyes began to glow red. With the background of disaster behind him, he was like a living demon. This scene also stunned Gory and Zatanna. Zatanna murmured, "Gory, are you sure it's okay to find him? No matter how you look at it, he doesn't look like he can help us protect the world. Instead, he looks more like a demon villain who wants to rule the world." But Gory also wanted to ask why. If this is the rebellious period of adolescence, is it a bit too rebellious? It is completely different from the Superman in Gory's impression, and it can even be called to extremes. What the hell? Gao Li thought absent-mindedly. Could it be that I didn't come to the normal DC universe, but a parallel world where a Superman became a supervillain? It would be terrible if that was the case. Chapter 37. Will you bleed? At this time, Oaks finally couldn't help it. He never thought that this student named Clark Kent would be so difficult to deal with. He beat Clark last week, but Clark was so weak at that time that he could fall down at the slightest touch. How could he suddenly become so strong? What Oaks didn't know was that it was because of the kryptonite dust at the scene that Clark was weak and powerless, which led to his beating. You will be beaten because you told me not to participate in the football game. You even came to me to say this to me in person. Who do you think you are? You are asking for a beating. Clark said angrily, that's because you leaked the test questions to students for cheating. This is a violation in itself. Even the principal said that you are not allowed to participate in the competition, but you almost killed the principal. Oaks sneered. So it was you who saved the principal that day? I told you how the old man escaped from the burning car. I don't want to talk too much nonsense, Clark said arrogantly. I will personally judge a piece of trash like you and sentence you to death. Hearing this, Oak's expression immediately became tense, and he gathered a giant fireball again. However, this time Clark didn't even move, but just stared, and then shot out 2 red lasers from his eyes, which exploded the fireball in the air. Boom. The close-range explosion blew Oaks away, and he fell to the ground with blood spitting out of his mouth. It took him a long time to barely get up. It seems that you have come to an end. Go to hell and reflect on your mistakes after you die. This is the punishment for offending me, Clark said coldly. His eyes glowed red again, and he was about to shoot Oaks from a distance. Wait, I have something to say. Seeing that there was no other way, Gory could only jump out. Clark had saved the principal before, proving that he still had a kind heart. Whether he would become a supervillain in the future, it was not too late to intervene from now on. If Clark really killed someone himself, or in the name of a high judge, it would be like opening a loophole, and it would be difficult to correct Clark's behavior and thoughts. Although Gory also disliked Oaks, he had to stand up, even if it was just to prevent the young Superman from opening Pandora's box. Gory himself had killed evil people, but he had already matured mentally after 2 lives, and he was very clear about his beliefs and will, which was not comparable to a teenager, who was still in the stage of mental growth. HMPH, the little mouse who was hiding finally showed up. You actually thought you could hide from me. My supervision and super hearing have spotted you from the beginning. Clark crossed his arms and glanced at Gao Li with contempt. He wanted to hear what this rat in the gutter had to say. I'm not called RB. No, I'm not that old. I'm just Captain Dragonfly who never acts on impulse and never misses any bad thing. Gao Li sighed. He was not angry with the rude and uneducated mental patient. Clark's mental state was obviously abnormal. No matter what, he seemed too arrogant. Actually, I don't have much to say. I've just heard about the grudges between you. Oaks is indeed a real scumbag, but it's not worth getting your hand stained with blood for a scumbag. It's an opportunity. Before Gao Li even finished speaking, Oak's eyes lit up, as if he had thought of a great idea. He instantly condensed a large amount of flames and threw them at Gao Li, letting the fireball completely submerge him. Then Oaks hurriedly ran in the opposite direction, laughing. Don't you like saving people? Then go save him. He was going to use Clark's time to save people to escape. However, Clark here is no longer the Clark of last week. He just stared at this scene with cold eyes, without even the thought of rescuing him. Humph. This is what you do when you commit evil. You dare to jump out to hinder me. You deserve to be burned to death. Clark didn't even plan to chase after Oaks, who was running away. Anyway, in front of his super speed, Ox can't escape, no matter how far he runs. He wants to play with Ox Crowley like a cat playing with a mouse, and make him despair and die. Gory. Zatanna ran out with a cry of surprise, and was about to use the irony magic to put out the fire and save people. However, the flames at this time began to shrink inward strangely, and at the same time, a familiar driver chant was heard. Flame. Please. Huo 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 Huo. Fire. Please. The burning raging flames gathered to one point, and finally revealed the red magic circle underneath, covering the unharmed Gory. You still have 20,000 years to hurt me with fire. Gory snorted coldly. Of course, he couldn't jump out without any preparation. The magic power had already accumulated in his body. Oh, what is this? Even Clark showed a surprised look. He didn't expect that Gory was not only fine, but also used a magic circle like magic. In the past, Clark had dealt with enemies who had superpowers because of the kryptonite scattered throughout the town. He had never seen such a cool power of magic circles. This is magic, haven't you seen it before? Gao Li raised a finger to his mouth. Keep it secret from your classmates, Clark. Even though he was very pretentious, he was at a loss for several seconds, and then shook his head to get rid of the distracting thoughts, and smiled sarcastically at Gao Li. Before, you didn't let me kill that scumbag, but you were attacked by the people you protected. What do you think now? Hehe. Gao Li took out the magician's sword and gun with his backhand, and fired 4 shots in a row. Bang 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 bang, directly piercing Oak's limbs. Oaks immediately fell to the ground in pain, howling in pain. Gao Li blew away the non-existent gunpowder smoke from the muzzle of the gun. Obviously, he has already found a way to die. Clark originally wanted to ridicule Gao Li's hypocrisy. He liked to see the tangled and uncomfortable expression of this guy who pretended to be a saint, so that he could feel comfortable and happy. Who would have thought that Gao Li would shoot as soon as he said so, and he was so straightforward beyond imagination, without even the slightest hesitation. This guy's also a ruthless person. After holding back for a long time, Clark reluctantly said, haha, after all, didn't you show mercy? You didn't really kill him. Clark just used his perspective eyes to see that, although Oaks screamed on the ground, and was indeed seriously injured, it was not fatal at all. Although he had to lie in bed for at least 2 years, and his athletic ability after recovery would definitely be much worse than before, at least he could live a normal life, and save his life. Gao Li chuckled and said lightly, because it's not necessary at all. Gao Li always killed those who committed heinous crimes, but now he mainly wanted to stop Clark from crossing that line, so he naturally couldn't kill in front of him. For the rest of this man's life, I have already branded him with fear. Even if he wants to use his ability again, he will have a deep psychological shadow. Gao Li's voice was very light, but the chill in it was as cold as coming from the depths of the underworld, chilling people to the bone. Whether in prison or finally being released from prison, every time he sees the scar, that will not disappear until he dies. Every time he feels the physical strength that has dropped significantly after the injury, All of these remind him. All of them ring the alarm bell for him. Awaken the deepest memory in his heart. Let him remember. There is a man who is not afraid of his flames, and the fear and pain of being powerless to resist when facing that man. After these words came out, even Clark, who thought he was fearless, felt his hair stand on end for a moment. But Gory felt a little bit strange right after he finished speaking. Why did he seem to be getting closer and closer to Batman's temperament? Isn't this Batman's usual method? In fact, Batman's method is really effective. It is the core method for him to rule Gotham in the future, who insists on the principle of not killing. Except for the group of mentally ill lunatics and villains, ordinary criminals will be deeply frightened and will keep their fear of Batman for the rest of their lives and dare not commit crimes again. Otherwise, it would be meaningless for Batman to fight crime every night. After all, no one has been killed and everyone dares to commit crimes again. Isn't that equivalent to fighting for nothing? But in fact, after Batman debuted, Gotham's crime rate has indeed declined year by year. It is for this reason that the upright police chief Jim Gordon is willing to cooperate with him as an illegal vigilante. I thought you were pretending to be a good person, but I didn't expect you to not even act. You are really a piece of garbage that should be swept away by me. After a long silence, Clark looked at Gory with strong hostility. Why are you so dissatisfied with me? Gory frowned. Can't we talk? Although I was not at Kent Farm this afternoon, I could still hear and see clearly your sneaky movements near my house with my super hearing and supervision. Clark sneered, and his eyes became red and shiny again. I was too lazy to care about you scoundrels, and I was just planning to teach you a lesson when I had time, but I didn't expect you to fall into my trap. It seems that the negotiation has broken down. Gory took out the infinite magician ring. Then I can only give you a good beating before we talk about other things. Clark was not afraid at all. The magic was just more intimidating at first glance. He had seen and fought too many monsters. Not to mention anything else, there were many hidden talents in the middle school where Clark studied, and many classmates had gained superpowers because of the scattered kryptonite. Some can discharge electricity, some can absorb heat, some can transform and increase strength, some can become invisible, some can control mutant bee swarms. In short, there are all kinds of things, and Clark defeated them one by one. Looking at all the people, there is not even one who can match his strength, and he easily defeated them all. Therefore, Clark really didn't take Gory seriously. He's frozen. Just as Clark was about to leave, Zatanna on the side decisively cast a spell. She was not just watching. Clark, who had extremely poor magic resistance, was instantly hit and was frozen in a giant ice block the size of a rockery. Anyway, let's restrict him first, and then we will. Zatanna had just said halfway when she saw Gory's face change drastically and rushed towards her. Be careful. This can't hold him. Gory had just finished speaking when the iceberg exploded on the spot and a blazing ray rushed straight to Zatanna. Thanks to Gory's reminder, Zatanna reacted quickly and recited the shortest defensive spell in advance. Protect. Bang. The heat vision hit Zatanna's shield and it exploded in less than half a second. Zatanna was also thrown away with a bloody head. Fortunately, Gory's spell was completed during the sprint. The connection magic and the amplification magic took effect at the same time. His palm, which became as tall as a person, penetrated the space and caught Zatanna in midair. So strong. Zatanna wiped the blood flowing to her eyes with trembling hands. Only when she was really an enemy of Clark could she feel how terrible the steel body with integrated attack, defense and speed was. The freezing magic was effective, but this low temperature was almost the same as no cooling for Clark. Even the ice as thick as a rockery was as fragile as paper in front of Clark. The heat vision, which was faster than any other spell, was comparable to the top attack magic. It was the first time that Zatanna had a premonition that she would be killed instantly when facing an enemy. I thought the so-called magic was so powerful, but it turned out to be just this level. Clark walked out of the ice fragments with a grim smile and raised his chin contemptuously. You are so weak, yet you dare to challenge me. You are so bold. Aren't you going to die? At this time, Gory rushed to Zatanna's side, gently wiped the blood off her head, and then turned to Clark with a gloomy face. Clark Kent. HMM. Clark made a gesture of listening. Are you asking for mercy? I like to hear it. Come and make me happy. Maybe when I'm in a good mood, I will be merciful and spare your lives. Let me ask you. Gory said word by word. Will you bleed? What? Clark was stunned, and Gory had already placed the infinite magician ring on the wizard drive. Unlimitedness. Please. Unlimited. Please. A beam of light as bright as a diamond shot up into the sky, and a huge magic circle covered the entire space with the chanting of a sacred spell. Gold, wood, water, fire, earth, all-encompassing Yinglang. Clark was startled, but soon calmed down. No matter what kind of superpowers he encountered in the past, he could just rely on his overwhelming steel body to violently break through them. There was nothing to be afraid of. Thinking of this, Clark shot out another hot gaze, but was blocked by a rushing diamond dragon halfway through, and he couldn't even scrape off half a dragon scale. What? Clark finally opened his mouth in shock. Even mythical creatures appeared. Who is that guy? P.S. Thanks to Woodsks for the 100-point reward. Chapter 38 Beat Up Superman. Clark was shocked not only by Yinglang's huge size that surpassed all creatures in reality, but also by the fact that it was like a legend in an epic poem appearing before his eyes. The visual impact alone was huge. The most important thing was that his hot gaze just now could not even hurt Yinglang's half-dragon scale. It was the first time that Clark saw an enemy who could withstand his heat ray without any injury. Damn. If the ray doesn't work, use speed and strength to defeat him. Clark gritted his teeth. At this time, Yinglang had already circled and rushed into Gao Li's body, turning him into Kamen Rider Wizard Infinite style. The next second, Clark rushed over and punched out regardless of anything. His sandbag-sized fist pierced the air, making an extremely sharp whistling sound. Bang. Then a dull sound rose up, and Clark looked closely, and it was Gao Li who raised his hand to catch his punch. Impossible. Clark was slightly distracted, muttering to himself in disbelief. Although a closer look showed that Gao Li's feet had already created 2 gaps, and he was pushed several meters away by the huge kinetic energy, but this was the first time Clark encountered an opponent who was not knocked away, even though he attacked with all his strength. You should know that, although the Endless style is not immune to physical attacks, its own physical defense is already very strong. The magic crystals surrounding the body have a hardness equivalent to 10 times that of diamonds. Defend, please. Gao Li blocked Clark's punch with his right hand, and took the opportunity to launch a defensive magic with his left hand. At this time, Clark also came to his senses and immediately gave Gao Li a second punch without hesitation. Because he also found that Gao Li was pushed away, proving that his strength was still greatly superior. Bang. The collision sound of the next blow was even more intense, and even the surrounding air was temporarily expelled. Gao Li took this powerful punch again. However, this time, with the defensive magic superimposed on him, his body was firmly fixed in place like an iron nail. Not to mention retreating like before, he didn't even shake at all. Clark's pupils suddenly shrank, as if he couldn't believe the reality in front of him. His proud super strength can't even beat his opponent. Question mark? Heat vision is useless. Super strength is useless. These were Clark's most relied on and only 2 means of attack in the past, but they all failed. This made Clark's original confidence gradually disappear, as if he had lost his backing, and the teenager's unsteady will began to shake violently. You rely on your strong strength to act recklessly and bully the weak. Gao Li's cold voice slowly rose, and his body took a step forward with pressure. Then today, right here, I will let you feel the taste of being a weak person. Clark was shocked by the shock just now, and he subconsciously took a step back. When he realized this, Clark felt ashamed and angry, and his body retreated at a high speed around Gao Li, trying to find his flaws. No matter what, he is not as fast as me. Clark thought bitterly. As long as I give him 1,000 punches in an instant, I don't believe he won't break his defense. He must avenge the humiliation just now. However, Gao Li was not in a hurry, and put the infinite magician ring on the driver again. Unlimitedness. Unlike the infinite style, Gao Li, who has a deeper cultivation, does not need to summon the brilliant sword and axe, and can directly launch magic that interferes with the flow of time. In an instant, Gao Li's figure turned into a very fast stream of light, and immediately caught up with Clark. Or it should be said that facing Clark, whose ability has not yet fully developed and can't even fly, Gao Li's speed is even faster. What? Clark was really shocked, and his whole face turned pale in an instant. Not only did his heat vision and super strength fail, but now even the super speed that he relied on last was at a disadvantage. In shock and panic, Clark was not careful for a moment and was punched away by Gao Li. After Clark landed, he smiled as if he had come to his senses and regained his confidence. Haha, ha ha ha. I really scared myself. Isn't he not as strong as me? It turns out he's just tougher. Now you're exposed. You still want me to have a taste of being a weak person? In the end, you don't have the ability to do that. Really? Gao Li pointed at Clark in the air. Then you just grit your teeth and experience that feeling of powerlessness. What else can you do? Clark frowned, and then Gao Li suddenly asked, aren't you curious about your own life experience? Clark was stunned. He did know that the Kents were not his biological parents, and he was indeed confused and entangled about where he came from. Could it be that the man opposite knew? How is this possible? Sure enough, Gao Li snorted and began to activate the ability of 10-meter long distance running. In order to meet the skill conditions, he chanted loudly in a specific format. Clark Kent, why are your parents ordinary humans, but you are made of steel? Why do you become weak and limp when you touch a green stone? Why do all your abilities become stronger as you age? Clark snorted coldly when he heard this. Did he want to distract him with these words? Too naive. Although I'm a little curious, how can I let you succeed? Thinking of this, Clark stepped on his feet and sprinted towards Gao Li. However, the next moment, Clark was shocked to find that not only did his super speed disappear, but it turned into a super turtle speed. What's going on? What did you do? Clark bumped left and right. No matter which direction he went, he moved like a turtle crawling, with the distance in centimeters. This unprecedented situation was even worse than the fear of being suppressed by his strength just now, because it was a weird experience that Clark had never felt before. There is only one answer. Gao Li used his skills to limit Clark's speed, while putting rings on his fingers and launching 5 magics in succession. Big, please. Enlarge. Speed, please. Speed. Gravity, please. Gravity. Thunder, please. Thunder. Connect, please. Connect. 5 chants burst out at the same time, and the connection magic circle appeared above Clark's head. The speed magic accelerated Gao Li's attack, the gravity increased the impact of Gao Li's fist, and the thunder enchanted Gao Li to target Clark's weakness of extremely poor magic resistance. The most external physical attack spell of night magic is actually giant magic, which will proportionally enlarge the size, mass, and strength of the objects that penetrate the magic circle. After Gao Li finished all this, Clark's eyes lit up again, and he wanted to break through with his thermal vision, but it was too late. A fist as huge as a hill, with the momentum of Mount Tay, fell from the sky and hit Clark hard. Boom. In an instant, Clark felt the oppression and pain he had never felt before, and was smashed into the ground hard without resistance. Compared to the force just now, completely different. Clark was in a trance, and this was the only thought in his mind. Not long ago, Gore's strength was weaker than Clark's, but now he has surpassed him. Not only that, the speed and the kinetic energy added by gravity made Clark's head buzz, and the lightning made him paralyzed and unable to dodge. Why is this happening? Lightning should not have much effect on me. Clark had been attacked by lightning before. He had a classmate who had obtained the lightning power, but he could only knock Clark away. But now this thunder made his steel body ineffective on the spot. Before Clark could figure it out, Gore's second attack came, and a big foot stepped on his face mercilessly. Clark screamed ah, and felt hot liquid flowing out of his mouth and nose. This experience, which he had never had since he was a child, directly made Clark's brain crash. What is this? Is it blood? Is it blood that he has only seen from other people, but never flowed out of himself? Question mark? I'm bleeding. Clark's brain was in a mess. He felt a sharp pain in his nose bridge, which was also the first time he felt it. It was so unforgettable. And then came fear and anger. Asshole, how dare you? Clark just stood up with a curse, and Gao Li kicked him into the ground again. Boom. The earth shook, accompanied by Gao Li's cold and condescending words. Did I allow you to get up? It hurts. It hurts. Clark huddled up, holding his kicked stomach, his face full of panic and strong hatred. The tolerance of any creature to pain can be cultivated, and Clark, who has almost never felt pain in his life except for being beaten last week, has a worse resistance to sudden severe pain than ordinary people. Experience it carefully, feel it well, and imprint it firmly in your mind. This is the taste of fear, Gao Li said softly, and punched down again, making Clark couldn't help but wail. Stop hitting me, Clark moaned. Please. No, Clark Kent, I want you to remember this very deeply today, Gori said in a calm voice, but with a rough kick. Clark's mouth and nose were full of blood, and his consciousness was blurred. Gori's voice in his ears seemed to become louder and louder. In the years to come, in your most private moments, when you rely on your own strength and look down on others, I want you to remember the person who defeated you. Even though Clark was beaten black and blue, Gori did not stop. On the contrary, he no longer paused in his attack, but roared like a berserker and swung his fists at high speed, inviting Clark to eat his ruthless iron fists. In an instant, countless punches blessed with various magics fell on Clark like a torrential rain. The intense pain like a tsunami overwhelmed Clark, making him faint before he could even scream. This series of critical hits fell like meteorites, and the surrounding and burned teaching buildings were shaking and trembling, which made Zatanna in the distance stunned. Clark, who she thought was so invincible, was beaten so badly by Gori. The rays can be blocked, the speed can be surpassed, the strength can be suppressed. My god, this is what Gori meant that day? Zatanna murmured in shock, recalling Gori's extremely confident declaration on the day he became the Lord of Magic. It turns out that this endless style is so strong. Gori really didn't brag. And his strange magic that limits speed, is it space magic? I can't even sense any magic at all. The fog shrouding Gori became deeper in Zatanna's mind. Soon, Zatanna saw Gori summoning chains with binding magic, tying up the unconscious Clark and dragging him all the way, and also cast a spell to help the school put out a fire. Okay, we are done. Zatanna, do you want to stomp on him a few times to vent your anger? Zatanna hesitated. Thank you for your kindness, but I think it's not necessary. As she spoke, she recalled the tenderness of Gori when he wiped the blood for her just now, and her face couldn't help but blush. Besides, you helped me beat him up, which is already my revenge. Thank you, Gori. Gori shrugged. It doesn't matter. In fact, I also want to beat him up. I can't be scolded for nothing, right? Zatanna said with a smile. Then you can hang him up and beat him. What, are we still looking for this god on earth? Isn't he far less powerful than you? To be honest, I'm not sure. Gori frowned. His resistance to magic is too poor, and we are facing a major crisis in the magic world. Maybe he really can't do anything. After that, Gori threw Clark aside and began to worry about how to deal with the young Superman. Whether it's killing him or letting him go, it doesn't seem good. Or, first find a way to figure out why Clark's temperament has changed so much. At this time, Zatanna suddenly said and pointed at Clark's finger. Gori, look, he has a ring on his hand like you. Are all middle school students so fashionable now? In this era, there are very few male middle school students wearing rings on their hands, which also attracted Gori's attention. Red gem ring? Let me see. Gori took off the ruby ring on Clark's hand and closed his eyes to feel it carefully for a while. He could feel that the magic he deliberately released would be disturbed by a slight energy fluctuation when it approached the ruby ring. Normal gems would definitely not release any energy fluctuations. It was obvious that this thing was not normal at all. Hey, this ring seems to be releasing something like radiation, but it is extremely weak and has almost no effect on the human body. Gori played with it in his hand for a while, then put the ruby ring in his pocket, intending to return to the Fedian group to use instruments to test the composition. It's so uncomfortable. I have to admire the good physique of Kryptonians. Clark, who was lying on the ground, groaned after a while and woke up faintly. At the same time, a large amount of memories from this period of time flooded into Clark's mind, making him put on a mask of double pain. Oh no. My god. How could this happen? What irreparable mistakes have I made? Chapter 39 Kamen Rider Magic Superman? Clark was tied up with chains at this time, so when he twisted in pain, he looked like a jumping shrimp. At least from Gao Li's perspective, he always felt a sense of deja vu. Why does it look so much like when he grew up and flipped through the photos left by his own second year syndrome, causing memories to flood his mind, and he had to roll around in pain while banging his head and shouting to forget it quickly. In short, Clark now can't see any of his previous rebelliousness. His whole face is full of regret, discomfort, remorse, self-blame and other emotions, which can be called a colorful palette. Why did he change so much all of a sudden? Zatanna asked Gao Li in a low voice. He is completely different from before. If he is pretending, then he must be the best actor at this year's Oscar. Gao Li thought for a while and said, it may be related to the ring I took off just now. After all, I can't think of any other reason. The two talked for a while, and Clark barely recovered from the memories of the dark history, and noticed Gao Li. Although his temperament changed drastically not long ago, Clark Kent with a changed temperament is still Clark Kent himself. The beating he received is still fresh in his memory. Therefore, the moment Clark saw Gory, his whole body reflexively felt pain, and he couldn't help but tremble slightly, producing symptoms similar to PTSD. There was no way Gory beat the child too hard, which left a huge psychological shadow on him. Huh? What are you looking at? Gory also noticed Clark's gaze, and a simple question made the young Superman shudder suddenly. Nothing. No, I want to say, I'm really sorry before. I'm really sorry. It's all my fault. Fortunately, Clark has not been influenced by Japanese culture, otherwise he would have to kneel down and apologize to Gory now. It's okay, I accept your apology. Tell me, Clark, what happened before? Seeing that Clark has become a good boy who admits his mistakes, Gory's tone also softened. You also know that we have been to Kent Farm. I heard from your parents that you were very well behaved before and would never do this. Clark thought about it with a complicated expression and said dejectedly, it must be that school ring. Once I wear it, I will feel great. I will lose all moral constraints and just want to vent minor desires. After listening to Clark's brief explanation of the cause and effect, it seems that this ring is the school ring of their middle school. Originally, the ruby part of the ring should be made of plastic or something like that, but someone in the school wanted to embezzle and take kickbacks, so they used local free red stones for cheapness. Those red stones, like the green stones that once made Clark weak, came from the meteorite shower that fell in the town of Smallville. They have almost no effect on ordinary people, but he will react violently once they touch him. So that's it. Gao Li suddenly realized that it seems that this red stone should also be a kind of kryptonite, but the effect of red kryptonite is different from that of green kryptonite. Especially when Gao Li tried to put the red kryptonite ring close to Clark's skin, he immediately saw the blue veins and blood vessels bulging, and basically made a clear judgment. In Clark's story, after dropping out of school and trying to wear a red kryptonite ring, he gained an unprecedented new experience. This red kryptonite can release and strengthen the inner desires of Kryptonians, allowing them to throw all moral constraints behind their heads. So Clark stole Jonathan's credit card and went out to spend money. Even when facing Jonathan, who came to dissuade him, Clark pushed him out mercilessly, causing his adoptive father to be injured. This is the most difficult thing for Clark to accept now. I probably have to slap myself twice when I wake up in the middle of the night and scold myself for being a person. After Clark had a good time outside for a while, he suddenly remembered that he was beaten by his coach last week. In his indulgent state, he became more and more angry, completely throwing away the concerns about concealing his identity, and rushed directly into the school to take revenge. Then he met Gao Li and was beaten with a personality correction punch. After finishing his story, Clark asked weakly, "Excuse me, can you untie me? I want to go home as soon as possible to apologize to my parents." With Clark's strength, he could easily burst these chains, but what he lacked was not strength, but the courage to do so in front of Gao Li. Oh, Yes, I almost forgot. Gao Li woke up, as if from a dream, and helped Clark untie the chains a little embarrassedly. Thank you. Clark asked carefully, speaking of which, I don't even know your name, and why did you look for me? Clark never forgot that Gao Li sneaked into his house, and for the sake of his adoptive parents, he finally plucked up the courage to ask. However, after calming down, Clark could still see that Gao Li and Zatanna were both good people, and they did not have any bad intentions towards them. After all, he obviously had such power, but when he approached the Ken couple in the afternoon, he did not have the slightest idea of forcing violence, and obviously would not be so strong as to attack ordinary people. My name is Gao Li, and this is my friend Zatanna Zatara. We originally wanted to ask you for help to fight a powerful enemy together. Gao Li said straight to the point, making Clark smile awkwardly. Mr. Wayne, you overestimate me. I can't even beat you. How can I help you fight the enemy? You are still in the growth stage. At most you are a mature Digimon, and you will be very powerful when you evolve to the perfect and ultimate in the future. Gao Li laughed and patted Clark on the back, leaving Clark confused. But to be honest, your steel body is more inclined to pure physical defense, and it is not very effective against magic attacks. Maybe you really can't help us this time. So those are really magic? Clark is a teenager after all, and he immediately became excited. Magic actually exists. Can I learn it? Gao Li was stunned. Superman learning magic. He had never thought about it. He couldn't help but think about whether it was feasible, but the more he thought about it, the more he shook his head. It still doesn't work. Clark was disappointed and said, is it because I don't have the qualifications? Gao Li explained, this is the first reason. You don't have magic power in your body, but I can find a way to solve this problem, so the key problem is the last few. The second reason is that, even if you really become a magician, to be honest, you are still not as good as you will be in the future in terms of combat. Transformation is equivalent to putting a limiter on you. Finally, becoming a magician is very risky. If you fail, you will become a monster like a phantom demon. With your future achievements, you don't need to take such a big risk. Although Magic Superman sounds very exciting, it is actually meaningless and cannot solve the defect of Superman's low magic resistance at all. Because the characteristic of immunity to magic is a special ability sublimated by the feedback of the endless style after the status. In other words, it is a privilege that belongs exclusively to Gao Li, the Lord of Magic. Clark did not stay depressed for too long, but asked curiously, Mr. Wayne, you keep talking about my future. Can you see the future? Gao Li shook his head and said, how is that possible? I just know you very well, so I know what level you will reach in the future. Know me very well. Clark was stunned, recalling what Gao Li said when he limited his speed. Could it be? Mr. Wayne really knows my life experience? Question mark? Mr. Wayne, do you know where I come from? Clark couldn't help but excitedly asked. If so, please tell me. This is Clark's biggest demon since he was a child. He always feels that he is different from the people around him, and he is very distressed because of this. Who am I? Where do I come from? This ultimate philosophical proposition has troubled Clark from beginning to end. Gao Li thought for a moment and said with a smile, it's okay to tell you. Anyway, with your strength, even if you can't help me this time, you will definitely be able to help me next time. Just consider it as a reward to you in advance. Listen carefully, Clark. In fact, your real name is Kal-El, an alien from Krypton, not an Earthling. Kal-El. Clark touched his cheek subconsciously. So I'm a Kryptonian. Then why did I come to Earth? Because Krypton exploded. Gao Li recalled the settings he had heard in his previous life. Before Krypton exploded, your parents sent you into an escape pod and launched you to Earth. I guess what you call a meteorite shower is your escape pod in the large amount of kryptonite it brought with it. That is, those green and red stones. If it came from the place where he was born, then it could easily affect him, which would make perfect sense. At this moment, in Clark's mind, everything seemed to be connected. In the end, Clark had only one last question left. Mr. Wayne, why do you know so much? Gao Li pondered and said, because I have seen a Saiyan from planet Vegeta, who also flew to Earth like you, and then planet Vegeta exploded. But that is a matter of another world. Clark. In short, I don't know the details, but you can ask your father, I mean your biological father. Gao Li spread his hands, but the words he said made Clark instantly surprised. Mr. Wayne, is my biological father still alive? Where is he? Please tell me, please. Gao Li said, it's not that he is still alive, but he has developed an artificial intelligence based on himself. This is the second reward for telling you. There is a place called the Fortress of Solitude in the Arctic. All the questions you are wondering about can be found there. In many universes, the Fortress of Solitude is a shelter built by Superman himself, but for Gao Li, the most famous Fortress of Solitude comes from the movie. It is an exploration spacecraft left behind by Krypton, of course. This name was later named by Superman himself. Anyway, according to Gore's impression, Superman will definitely find that place in the end, so telling Clark in advance is equivalent to taking advantage of the time difference in intelligence and earning a favor from Superman for free. So cool. The North Pole, the Fortress of Solitude. Clark stared blankly. For a young man from a small town who has never left Smallville in his life, the North Pole is really too far away. Now he can't fly and has no money. How can he go to the North Pole? Seeing Clark's confused expression, Gore patted his forehead. I almost forgot that you don't seem to be able to fly yet. How about this? As the third reward, I will take you to the North Pole. Actually, I'm also very curious about alien technology, and I can take this opportunity to study it well. This is not good. Clark was a little embarrassed. Mr. Wayne has told me so much, but I still have nothing to repay. It's okay. It's a small matter for me. Gore secretly praised him for being a good child and sent a message to Holly, asking her to see how to get to the North Pole as quickly as possible. On the other side, Metropolis. Harley, who was about to go to bed, saw the exclusive phone with the boss message light up and could only get up from the bed helplessly. Harley never worked overtime, didn't smoke, and only drank lightly. She slept for 8 hours a day. The doctor said she was normal until she became Gore's secretary. All her work and rest were ruined. Harley couldn't help but recall that when Gore first saw her, he first fell into deep thought for dozens of seconds and then said that he wanted her to be a secretary. When Harley asked the reason, Gore said some strange reason such as it's normal that your university major and job don't match. I think you are too easily influenced by others and have a very weak stress resistance. It's better not to get into mental illness. At that time, Holly still felt that this was the ultimate insult to her psychology major. She wanted to rebuke Gore so loudly, but Gore gave too much. Holly sighed in her heart that she had got on a pirate ship and honestly began to search for information. After a while, Holly sorted out the information and sent it back to Gore. Zatanna and Clark curiously leaned over to look at the screen. The first method is to take our group's private plane, but since it's not a professional equipment, there are still some risks. The second method is to take a plane from a professional company such as Barnier Ice Camp to the North Pole. It takes 3 days and the price is not expensive. If you want to have fun on the way, there are other options, such as taking the nuclear-powered icebreaker 50 Years of Victory. We can take the one operated by Poseidon Company, or the Xagu icebreaker is also okay. This is a cruise company. It is estimated that you can have a good time. It's a pity that it takes 15 days, which is a bit too long. If you want to have fun and want to walk in the sky, you can choose the airship of Ocean Sky Company. How about it, Clark? Which one do you want to take? Clark was silent for a long time. He was dizzy just by seeing the budget price written by Harley at the back. Even if it is a so-called cheap plane in Gore, the ticket price per person is as high as more than 20,000 euros, and the final airship price is more than 200,000 US dollars per person. Is this the world of the rich? Exclamation mark. Recalling the time when he used Jonathan's credit card to spend money on wine and women, Clark felt that he was still narrow-minded, like a frog in a well. Even if he maximumed out Jonathan's credit card, he couldn't afford any of the options to go to the North Pole. Clark looked pitiful, powerful, and helpless. They are all too expensive. I can't afford to sit. Huh? Gore asked curiously. I said I took you there, so of course I'll pay. It's just a small amount anyway. Clark immediately looked up to Gore. Chapter 40, Teacher Gao Li, update of 3 views. That night, Gori and Zatanna took Clark, who was bruised and battered, back to the Kent's home. First, Clark, who had returned to normal, was filled with guilt and was eager to apologize to his adoptive parents. Second, he also wanted to ask the Kents how they found him. Third, Clark also wanted to tell them that he would follow Gori to the North Pole tomorrow. Oh my god. Clark. My poor child, what happened to you? After Martha opened the door, her first reaction when she saw Clark was to cover her mouth with heartache. She had never seen Clark look so miserable. Don't worry, he will recover in the sun tomorrow morning. Gori interrupted. Only then did the Kents notice the 2 people behind Clark, and Jonathan frowned immediately. You seem to be the ones who came to find Clark during the day. Yes, Gori shrugged. I said we are Clark's friends, but you still don't believe it. Thinking that they came back with Clark, Jonathan felt that he might have misunderstood them. I apologize for my attitude during the day. The main reason is that I have seen almost all of Clark's friends, but your faces are relatively unfamiliar. Clark, you haven't introduced your new friends to us yet, Martha said gently. This is Mr. Wayne, and this is Miss Zatara, Clark said, and Mom, I'm really sorry. Dad, I'm sorry that I hurt you. As he spoke, Clark lowered his head in shame, and Jonathan and Martha were all shocked. Clark, you're back. Clark nodded silently, and the family hugged each other in silence. Then the Kents warmly invited Gori and Zatanna into the house, and prepared rich tea and snacks for them, and then they had time to ask Clark. Clark, who beat you like this? Clark hesitated. It was Mr. Wayne, but he did it out of kindness to help me recover. The Kents also became hesitant to speak. They thanked Gori for helping them turn Clark back, but they also felt that Gori was too cruel, and their mood was very contradictory. And they knew very well that Clark was invulnerable and powerful, but he was beaten by Gori so badly that even his mother could not recognize him, while Gori was unharmed. Is he also an alien? Jonathan muttered subconsciously. Clark heard it immediately. Dad, you really know that I'm an alien, right? How did you pick me up in the first place? Faced with Clark's repeated questioning, the Kents could no longer hide it, and told him what happened that year. I have been hiding the small spaceship that carried you in the basement of the warehouse. After your friends leave, I can take you to see it. That won't work. Gori poked his head out like a ghost. If you want to find the Fortress of Solitude in the vast Arctic, the key to the spaceship is indispensable. The Kents were shocked and looked back at Clark. Clark, Mr. Wayne also knows your background? And what about the North Pole? I haven't had time to tell you yet. Clark scratched his head a little embarrassedly. I'm going to the North Pole with Mr. Wayne tomorrow. He said that I can find the answer to my life experience there. Jonathan glanced at Gao Li with extreme vigilance. A new friend he had never met suddenly jumped out and said that he would take his son to the North Pole. It really looked like child trafficking. Gao Li also saw their concerns and shook his head and said, relax, you see, I can beat Clark like that, and you can't stop me from doing anything to him. Even so, I still brought him back to tell you first. Is that enough to prove that I have no ill intentions? Jonathan hesitated and said, having said that, we don't have that much savings to afford Clark's trip to the North Pole. Not to mention the cost of going to the North Pole. Clark could hardly pay back the credit card he had swiped a lot some time ago. Gori said calmly, it's okay, I will reimburse you for the whole thing. You don't have to feel indebted. Just think of it as a reward for him saving many people in the past. Jonathan said seriously, I have always taught Clark that saving people should be selfless. So, why can't you ask for rewards for saving people? Gori interrupted him. You ask your son to be a saint. Have you ever thought about what bad influence it will have on others? What's bad about this? It's obviously a very righteous idea. Jonathan retorted unconvinced. How could he not know that it could also affect outsiders? In an ancient country in the east, there was a wise man who scolded his disciple because he saved people but refused payment. The wise man thought this set a very bad example. Gori's words made Jonathan even more confused. Shouldn't saving people without expecting anything in return be a positive role model? Gao Li explained. Think about it. He saved people, but refused to be paid, which brought him a good reputation. then what should others do when they are faced with the situation of saving people? If he saved people, but accepted the payment, people would naturally compare him with that disciple, and think that he was much worse in morality, saving people and even wanting rewards. In the long run, saving people will become a thankless chore. Except for those true saints, others will give up saving people due to various concerns. This will lead to many people who should have been saved, but ultimately failed to be saved, and it will also lead to many people who have the ability to save people, but ultimately did not do so. After all, you can't ask everyone to sacrifice themselves for others. Hearing these words, the Ken couple and Clark were stunned on the spot. They had never considered it from this angle. But after thinking about it carefully, they had to admit that what Gao Li said seemed to make a lot of sense. Could it be that they were really wrong? The remaining night spent the three people's contemplation, and Gao Li was not here to give them ideological education classes. After eating the refreshments, he took Zatanna. After returning to the hotel, Gao Li was lying in his room and opened the new prompt system interface. The spirit is very strong, but you think that it should be more than that. The machine turns up and waits for the raffle to stop, and it is decomposed as light spot on the spot. Chapter 41, The Evil Witch Group, Here I Come. The light gradually condensed into a silver white card, which made Gao Li feel very familiar. Huh. This is a silver level advanced experience card? Gao Li flipped open the card and saw a blue Kamen Rider drawn on it, which looked familiar and strange. He thought carefully for a long time before he found this Kamen Rider from the corner of his memory. Kamen Rider Water Rider. Water Rider is a future Kamen Rider from 2051. He uses the power of water to transform. He is a rare Kamen Rider who specializes in water attributes. Because of the use of future technology, he has some outrageous supernormal performances, such as the five senses can even perceive the distortion and changes of time and space, and all the data are also very good. The most exciting feature of Gao Li is that once Kamen Rider Water Rider enters the water, his abilities in all aspects will increase by leaps and bounds. It seems suitable for dealing with some enemies from the ocean, but it's a pity that it's useless at the moment. I can't turn into a water rider and attack Atlantis for no reason, right? Gao Li thought about it and could only put away the experience card of the water rider for future use. After dealing with the system, Gao Li took out the red kryptonite ring and played with it. I thought the only function of kryptonite was to restrain Superman, but I didn't expect it could also awaken superpowers. Gao Li was very interested in this, so he asked Clark to talk in detail about the enemies he had dealt with before. However, Gao Li was very disappointed after hearing it, because those superpowers who rely on kryptonite to awaken their abilities basically have corresponding serious defects, or even fatal side effects. For example, a superpower who can absorb heat must keep absorbing heat, otherwise he will freeze to death due to hypothermia. For example, after handing over the coach they just dealt with to the local police, Clark also specifically reminded the police to be careful of his self-immolation. On the way to Kent Farm, Gory asked him the reason. Clark said that during the previous fight, he used his supervision to see that the temperature of the coach's body was getting higher and higher. If Gory and Clark were not too strong, the coach would have been defeated on the spot after a short fight. It is estimated that, if he fought for another half a minute, he would have spontaneously combusted and died. Moreover, kryptonite can cause cancer. When the radiation is large enough to change genes and trigger superpowers, Gory estimated that the man is not far from cancer. Let the company send someone to collect more kryptonite tomorrow. Now go to sleep. Gory changed into the sleep magician ring and immediately fell into a peaceful sleep like a baby. The next morning, Gory did not wake up Zatanna who was sleeping soundly, but went to Kent Farm to watch Clark's escape pod. Of course, he was not completely ignorant of alien technology. Astronomical switches were a kind of alien technology, and the relevant information had long been thoroughly studied by Gory. What kind of metal is this? There are also complex geometric figures and symbol systems engraved on it. What is its function? Is it for aesthetic purposes? It shouldn't be. Kryptonian culture doesn't seem to pay attention to artistic atmosphere. Maybe it's the language of Krypton, or a special coding method? It may also be similar to the function of a circuit, which can be used to enhance the aerodynamic performance or protective performance of the escape pod. I wonder what energy it relies on to drive it. The Kents and Clark watched Gory walk around the escape pod all morning, touching it left and right, muttering to himself, as if he was possessed. It was not until Zatanna came from the hotel to look for someone that Gory returned to normal. Forget it. Without the assistance of instruments and equipment, we can't explore too many secrets. Can you sell this escape pod to me? The Kents shook their heads together, and Gory held up a finger. I'll give you a number. No, $10,000. No, we won't sell it for $1 million. Jonathan refused subconsciously. This is the most precious memory of our meeting with Clark. Gao Li shook his head and said, no, how can such alien technology be worth only $1 million? I won't be so stingy and fool people. Is it really worth that much? Could it be that it can be sold for $10 million? Clark was a teenager after all, and he began to be tempted. Dad, Mom, let's sell it. $10 million can make us live a carefree life for the rest of our lives. Martha refused firmly. We will never enjoy wealth and glory by selling our sons things. You are all wrong, Gao Li said lightly. I mean $100 million, and the price can go up. Hiss. For a moment, the three people on the opposite side took a breath of cold air, especially Clark, who really raised the room temperature by several degrees. However, the Kents are indeed Superman's life mentors in most universes. They are very determined, and chose to refuse, after hesitating and struggling for a minute. Not only do they not want to sell Clark's escape pod, but the most important thing is that they are naturally wary and distrustful of big tycoons like Gory. They always feel that there may be trouble and their peaceful life will be disrupted. Okay. Gory sighed. Then I won't force it. Anyway, I still have the Fortress of Solitude to study. After letting Clark pack his luggage, Gory and Zatanna took him on the road. Zatanna, who has not reached the level of Magic Master, cannot cast space-type irony magic, so the three of them can only take a special car to the airport first. Then they entered the terminal shared by business class and private jets, walked along the VIP-only security check channel, rested in the first-class VIP lounge, and didn't even need to walk in the airport as there were trams to pick them up all the way. In short, it was an eye-opener for the young people from a small town, who had never even taken an ordinary plane. Clark was dazzled by the sights along the way, and even asked carefully if there was any charge for eating in the VIP lounge. Just as the group was about to board the plane, a fiery red bird flew over. It was one of the many familiars released by Gao Li, Garuda. What? At this time, as soon as Gao Li received the message from Garuda, his face immediately became uncertain. What's wrong? Zatanna guessed something immediately. Did they find the evil coven? Gory nodded and said slowly, it seems that we can't go to the Fortress of Solitude for the time being. The evil coven must be dealt with as soon as possible, otherwise it will trigger a world-destroying crisis. Zatanna, let's split up into two groups. I'll go to destroy the evil coven, and you take the fastest plane back to Gotham, and stay with your father. Remember to keep in touch with me via telepathy along the way. Clark seemed confused and uneasy in the face of this sudden change, and asked weakly, Mr. Wayne, then, what about me? What should I do? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42, The Most Efficient Magician. Gary glanced at him and said, you should go to the North Pole as planned. With the key to your escape pod, it should be easy to find the Fortress of Solitude I mentioned. It's actually a large spaceship. After all, Superman is not as strong as him now, and his magic resistance is too weak. It is useless to deal with such major events in the magic world. Bringing him around will only add to the burden. Clark was stunned. But I have never been to the North Pole. Calm down. You are strong and healthy. Ordinary people are no match for you. You can't be abducted, right? So your safety is not a problem. Gary patted his shoulder and stared into his eyes. Everything depends on you. I believe you can do it. You have to believe in me who believes in you. Don't you want to learn magic? Then the heart of belief is your magic. Ah, okay, I get it, Mr. Wayne. Clark, who was fed a lot of spiritual chicken soup, nodded in a daze. Zatanna asked in confusion, well, let me go back to Gotham? At this time, I stay by your side to assist you, so that we can be more confident in destroying the evil witch group, right? No need. Didn't Dr. Fate say that the evil witch group is a group of ancient wizards? Then any wizard can't be my opponent. Gori explained, I'm not arrogant, but a more appropriate arrangement. Your father showed the magic of space movement when fighting with me. Then no matter what I need at that time, you can call your father to cast a spell to teleport all the magic masters over, which is safer. Zatanna understood and hurriedly boarded the plane back to Gotham. Gori also took another plane and left, leaving Clark standing alone scratching his hair. Hey, by the way, what does it mean that the heart of faith is my magic? So can I use magic? Gao Li was heading to South America, where the evil witch group's lair was hidden. For other mages, it was very difficult to locate the evil witch group in the vast South America, but for Gao Li, the master of magic power, it was extremely simple. He only needed Garuda to lead him to the approximate location. This was also the limit of the progress of the familiar search. After all, the evil witch group was not just eating dry food, and they were good at hiding, and then Gao Li would release the magic induction. The huge source of magic gathered by those ancient wizards was as conspicuous as a bonfire in the dark night. Gao Li followed his perception all the way to the vicinity of the evil witch group's lair, which was outside a huge valley. He stopped there temporarily. I don't know what's going on inside, but if I release the familiar at this distance, it will definitely be noticed. What should I do? Gao Li thought for half a second, and decided to flood the 7 armies without thinking. Look at the shape of this valley, doesn't it look like a rat hole suitable for flooding? Since they are an evil group that wants to destroy the world, it is not unfair to kill any of them. Water, please. Shoo 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 shoo. Water, please. Gao Li first transformed into Kamen Rider Wizard's water style, and then raised his hand to match all 5 rings. Water, please. Water, connect, please. Connect, big, please. Enlarge, storm, please. Storm, flood, please. Flood. First use water magic to summon a large amount of water, and then use flood magic to add the power of flood, and storm magic further increases the power. Then use enlargement magic to super double the scale, and then use connected space magic to directly pour it into the nest. Perfect. Boom boom boom. The next moment, a torrent of natural disaster swept across the valley, drowning out the screams inside. Gori, it's so noisy over there, what's going on? Zatanna asked in her telepathy. She had already arrived in Gotham. At this time, a large group of magic masters were surrounding Zatanna to listen to her live broadcast. Oh, nothing. I just asked the evil wizard group to taste the taste of flooding the Golden Mountain. Maybe the crisis has ended here. Zatanna, what kind of efficiency is this? Guani, Seijochi and others looked at each other blankly. So the evil wizard group that they had been looking for a long time was easily found by Gori, and the ancient wizards who were imagined to be extremely powerful were collectively destroyed by Gori. After all, the evil wizard group is an ancient wizard group, and there are countless strange and evil spells. Don't take it lightly. At this time, Stranger suddenly interrupted. In the long years, he had seen too many situations where people thought they had won a great victory, but they didn't know that they were played by the enemy. Dr. Fate also murmured, that makes sense. We have many sorcery techniques that we have never heard of. It is not so easy for you to control them. We must be careful about this matter. Let me check if there is a wave of people who can wipe them out. Wait for a moment. When the torrent gradually subsided and the water was scattered to the nearby forest, Gao Li walked into the valley with knee-deep water. Are they really wiped out, or are they hiding with sorcery? Anyway, I haven't seen any human figures for the time being. As for magic, before Gao Li finished speaking, dense humanoid monsters appeared around the valley, looking like a swarm of insects, which gave people goosebumps. Hey, there really are enemies. There are many monsters that look like both babies and adults, and there are hundreds or even thousands of them. Upon hearing this, the faces of all the magic masters changed. Seijochi said solemnly, It's the deformed infant demon. They collect 100-day-old babies to create monsters. This is a common method used by the evil witch group. Guani said hurriedly. Each deformed infant demon has a very strong body, and each one can be called a mini version of Magic Warrior. There are too many of them. You should retreat quickly. There is a barrier that prohibits space magic in the evil witch group's lair. As long as you escape the range of the barrier, I can directly locate you with anti-speech magic and teleport to support you. Guani didn't know Gao Li's specific location. The anti-speech magic he could use was go to Gao Li from the side, so Gao Li had to leave the barrier first to take effect. However, all they could hear was Gao Li's voice that suddenly became low and cold. Using a 100-day-old baby to make this kind of monster. How many babies have been killed by this number of monsters? It seems that I was too soft-hearted before. I should have used thundering means to deal with those scums. The evil witch group is really a group of unimaginable beasts. Hurricane. Please. Feng 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 feng. Hurricane. Please. Gao Li first turned into a hurricane style and gained the ability to fly to avoid the siege of the monsters. After all, the monsters are melee physical attacks. Gao Li is not sure to what extent the endless form can defend, so it is safer to dodge directly. Then Gao Li stretched his hand downwards, and the 5-layer magic circle covered the entire valley. Metal, please. Wood, please. Water, please. Fire, please. Earth, please. Gold, wood, water, fire, and earth, a 5-element chain bomb. PS. Thank you Gold, Wood, Fire S for the 300-point reward. Chapter 43 Plant Spirits, Swamp Monsters. In an instant, a destructive elemental storm that circulated, in turn descended upon the valley. With Gao Li's output of magic power, the elemental storm swept everywhere, covering and killing all the deformed infant demons. It was not like hundreds or thousands of deformed infant demons surrounded Gao Li alone, but Gao Li alone surrounded hundreds or thousands of deformed infant demons. How is it possible? How can a magician be so powerful? The wizards of the evil witch group hiding in the dark all widened their eyes in horror, watching their trump card army of deformed infant demons fall into a meat grinder. In a short while, the deformed infant demons that they thought were invincible were collectively wiped out, leaving only Gao Li floating in the air, looking down like a god. I found you. Gao Li said coldly, because the 5-element storm destroyed many magic arrays and cover, exposing the surviving wizards. Let's stop him. The ritual is only one step away from completion. The wizards of the evil wizard group shouted loudly to cheer themselves up, as if they were going to die, and then they all started to attack one after another. Gao Li was also shocked when he heard it. What ritual? Could it be a ritual to awaken the giant beast? He could indeed feel an extremely evil magic power, but this magic power left traces everywhere and could not be accurately located, but it doesn't matter. Gao Li has another way. He immediately stopped the mental telepathy, put the endless magician ring on his waist, and dived down. Unlimitedness. Please. The 3 operations were completed in one go. Gao Li was like a meteorite made of diamonds, falling directly into the wizard group and detonating a deafening smoke and dust. The thin wizard screamed and flew backwards. This single blow killed most of the wizards. Gao Li immediately launched his ultimate move without hesitation. Yinglong, come here. Following Gao Li's command, the diamond Yinglong rushed out of his body and turned into a brilliant sword and axe in his hand. Although Gao Li didn't know where the ritual was, as long as the entire valley was destroyed at once, no matter what the ritual was, it would be forced to be interrupted. High touch. Gao Li placed the endless ring on the brilliant sword and axe, and then the whole weapon began to grow rapidly. Shining strike. The endless magic circle that covered the sky enveloped the sky, and the brilliant sword and axe had been enlarged to be as tall as a mountain. This giant in front of them brought an unimaginable visual impact. The remaining wizards even had weak legs and sat on the ground. This was the instinctive reaction of creatures when facing the unknown. Who is he? Why does he have such great power? Even the leader of the evil wizard group was stunned. He clearly saw that the spells released by the wizards hit Gao Li, but it was like a breeze blowing on his face, without even a ripple. It was incomprehensible. Isn't this a great power that only a great being like the Ultima Darkness can possess? Exclamation mark. Give them a hard blow. Suddenly, a voice that Gao Li was slightly familiar with rang out of thin air. A green light lit up from the branches, blown by the flood, and two figures, one large and one small, jumped out of it, raised their hands and burst out with majestic divine power to the whole audience. What the hell? Gao Li was shocked. The emerald green divine power even covered him. In the blink of an eye, the valley was full of thick tree roots, all of which were covered with spikes, piercing through all the members of the evil witch group, just like the birth of the tree world of the first generation of Hokage. The brilliant sword axe, which was in the ultimate state, shook lightly and shattered the entangled tree roots, but it was too late to stop it. In the shadows, there was a human-headed bird with a gem in its mouth, flying across space towards hell. The two figures only then showed their figures, one of which was a humanoid monster mixed with a pile of muddy vines, and the other was Gao Li's acquaintance, Constantine. Now Gory couldn't use his brilliant attack, otherwise he might kill them both. There are more enemies? The humanoid monster said in a dull and suspicious voice. At this time, Constantine also saw Gory clearly. Wait a minute, this is my friend. He should be a friendly army to destroy the evil witch group. Constantine hurriedly stopped him, and Gory also made a sound of gritting his teeth. John, what is going on? Are you here to steal the heads? Constantine said in surprise. I didn't know you were here before. I was tracking down the evil witch group with the swamp monster, the one next to me. Swamp monsters have special abilities. They can appear anywhere in the world through plants, and can carry living people with them. They were the main force in hunting down the evil witch group. For this reason, the evil witch group set up a barrier to block the swamp monsters, but just now I found that the barrier disappeared for some reason, so I asked him to bring me here quickly to catch the evil witch group off guard. Gao Li thought about it and realized that it was probably because his 5-element magic destroyed the barrier at the scene that gave the swamp monster and Constantine the opportunity. You bastard. Do you know that this sudden attack will ruin everything? Just now, the evil witch group said that the ritual was about to be completed. I could have stopped the ritual by destroying the whole place. Constantine was stunned. Then what are you still chatting about? Hurry up and continue. Too late. The moment you tried to stop me, I felt that the extremely evil magic power at the scene had already traveled through the space. Gao Li was so angry that his teeth were itching. He injured it again and again, but he couldn't bear it anymore. He put away the glorious sword and axe and slapped Constantine. John, it seems that the information I collected was not wrong. Being friends with you will only bring misfortune. The world-destroying crisis that I instinctively wanted to prevent failed because of such a coincidence. The swamp monster couldn't help but said, what are you doing? John and I didn't know about it before. It's just a coincidence. It's not our fault. Gao Li snorted. Do you know how many tons of my punching power is? If I didn't know it was a coincidence, I would have slapped him to death with one palm. I'm telling you openly that I'm venting my anger. If John is unhappy, let him break up with me. Constantine covered his swollen face and shamelessly got up from the ground. That won't do. You haven't done the trouble you promised me to help you with yet. Gory said in disbelief. This crisis of the destruction of the universe is not the trouble you mentioned? Of course. Constantine shrugged. I thought the evil wizard group could handle it by themselves, and the swamp monster, so there's no need to bother you. The swamp monster is a real plant god, one of the 3 mysterious forces, the green of all things. Its strength is so strong that it can destroy human civilization in just a few days. It's easy for it to kill the evil wizard group alone. However, there are obviously 2 powerful people involved, but the evil wizard group completed the ritual. Gory couldn't help but frowned. Coincidence? Is this too coincidental? Is it really just a coincidence? Or is it a coincidence arranged by a powerful person, just like the 10 Rings attack on Stark Tower? Chapter 44 The Giant Beast Awakens. After thinking about it, Gory decided to deal with the problem at hand first. John, do you know telepathic magic? Help me reconnect with Zatanna. I'm not good at it. You'd better not have too high expectations. Constantine also understood the seriousness of the situation and stopped smiling and tried to cast a spell. Fortunately, Zatanna had been trying to reconnect with Gory after he disconnected the telepathic magic, but failed because of the magic immunity of the endless style. Now, after Gori deliberately released some magic immunity, she just happened to connect with Constantine's magic. "Gori? What's going on over there?" Gori said in a deep voice. "I'm sorry, although the evil witch group has been wiped out, John and the swamp monster suddenly jumped out, so I still couldn't stop the ritual of awakening the giant beast." Constantine coughed on the side. "We didn't mean it. It would be bad if he was regarded as a rape." Gori and Zatanna were too lazy to pay attention to him. Zatanna said, "We have already detected the success of the evil witch group's ritual. That's why my father didn't use the anti-speech magic to help you. They are planning to use the spirit world projection to project their power to hell to help. The realm of the magic master is not just a nice name. They have their own means to monitor the changes in the material world at any time, such as Dr. Fate's Tower of Destiny. Because of this, the magic masters received the news the moment the evil witch group's ritual was successful, so even if the barrier was broken, Guani didn't come. Hell. Is the giant beast sleeping in hell?" Gori asked curiously. "Did you succeed in stopping the ritual?" Zatanna shook her head and said, "I don't know. Currently, only God Nabu and Stranger have taken Mr. Allen to hell. There is no news about them yet. After all, they are either gods or hosts of gods, so they can go to hell in the flesh, but the magic masters can't do it. They have to be separated by a layer to receive the news. As the saying goes, going to heaven or hell after death. Of course only the soul can go there. This is a law set by God, and it is difficult for normal humans to break through. Even experienced magic masters must use the telepathic helmet of a hero named Mento to complete the ritual of projecting power into hell. Well, let me quickly explain the situation here," Gori said quickly. "I can sense that it is an extremely evil magic power, which is used to awaken the giant beast. The characteristics of this magic power are so obvious that ordinary mages can recognize it. There is no mistake. You must quickly catch this magic power in hell." Zatanna relayed Gori's words truthfully. At this time, the magic masters had formed a circle, and their bodies were emitting the glow of magic. "I understand. After the spirit world projection is completed, I will notify Kent as soon as possible," Seijochi said. After only a dozen seconds, the spirit world projection jointly performed by the magic masters was successfully performed, and the picture of hell appeared in the center. "Kent, can you hear me?" Gori Wayne said. Seijochi had just finished speaking when Dr. Fate said with a strange look on his face, "Indeed, the characteristics are very obvious, so we caught it directly not long after we came to hell." After that, Dr. Fate also made way for the screen to let everyone see Alan's figure. At this moment, Alan was not a drunkard, but a muscular man ghost in a green cape, holding a human-headed bird with a black pearl in his mouth. "Humph, it's really a cold and evil magic that woke me up from my deep sleep." The ghost's dull and magnificent voice echoed in hell, and the magic masters in Gao Li in South America all breathed a sigh of relief. In any case, the three big guys who went to hell were all top-notch and had gold content. With their help, it was a sure thing. Needless to say, the stranger who has been throughout human history, Nabu is also a dignified god king of the order god system, and the ghost represents the wrath of God. In a moment, he searched the entire hell, and the capture was through time and space, and he easily grasped the little human-headed bird. Just when everyone was thinking this, the ghost gently let go, and the human-headed bird flew away across space again. "Ghost, what are you doing?" The stranger was shocked, and the ghost said calmly, "There is no need to stop the ceremony, because there is no need at all. As long as I'm here, I will suppress everything. I can subdue a mere giant beast with a wave of my hand. Why should I stop it?" Note 1. Nabu was also anxious, and instantly released divine power from his helmet, but was forcibly dispersed by the ghost with a wave of his hand. "You." The ghost snorted coldly. "I said there is no need to stop it. Do you want to disobey the will of the spirit of revenge? I'm the agent of the Lord's wrath, and it is just right to wake up this giant beast. I will destroy the ultimate darkness for the Lord." Nabu had thousands of words to curse in his heart, but he didn't dare to say them because of the ghost and the heavenly forces behind him, and he almost hurt himself. When this scene was projected to the material world through the spiritual world, the magic master's pupils also trembled. Huh? Is the ghost's brain okay? Could this be a traitor sent by the evil witch group? Question mark? Gory, who learned about this from Zatanna a step later, had his fists hard and soft, and hard again, and felt his blood pressure soar. This is fucking stupid. Whether he can really crush the giant beast or not, isn't this playing a joke on the survival of the universe? Gory thought of Alfred and Zatanna. If the world is destroyed, the family and friends he cares about will disappear. It seems that he really can't pin his hopes on those unreliable gods. John, will you cast a spell to send my soul and body to hell together? Constantine frowned and said, I do have a spell that allows my soul to enter hell for a short time, and a spell that curses others to go to hell, but I don't recommend you to use it. Generally, this kind of magic that throws a person's body and soul into hell intact is created with the most vicious purpose for the person who is hit, and it is always extremely harmful. If you don't hate a person to the bone, how could you want him to fall into hell as a whole? Gory also frowned. He could rely on the endless style to be immune to this kind of curse magic, but if he was immune, the magic would not work. If he was not immune, he would not be able to fight if it worked. It was a paradox. Just as Gory was thinking about what to do, he heard Zatanna's exclamation. Oh no, the giant beast has successfully awakened. P.S. Although this part seems to force the ghost to let the human-headed bird go, in the original event Dark Rise, the ghost really met the human-headed bird and stupidly let it go, because he thought he could crush the giant beast. Chapter 45 If I don't go to hell, who will? In fact, there was no need for Zatanna to say more. The next second, Gory, the Swamp Thing, and Constantine also felt it. Because the shock brought by the resurrection of the giant beast directly affected the entire universe. Endless terrifying energy caused terrible visions in all parts of hell. The sky suddenly became deep and dark, and the element fell into chaos. Hell is a complete other world, so there are also cosmic stars, but now they are all shrouded by the breath of the giant beast. Even the galaxy is trembling under its existence. Everything seems to be heading towards doomsday. I'm in hell, but I can have such an impact on the magic power of the material world. Gory, the master of magic power, felt it most clearly, and a drop of cold sweat could not help but flow down his temples. This is a supreme existence that he has never seen or even imagined, and it is even impossible to describe it in words. The magic power everywhere is now extremely violent, sweeping across like thousands of violent dragons, crushing everything that stands in their way into pieces. This is exactly the case. These magic powers are surging like the tide, like angry waves. Fortunately, there is the suppression of the Order God system, so no disaster has occurred. This is exactly the purpose of Nabu's combination of the green of all things, the black of decay, and the red of life, to form the Order God system, in order to suppress the disaster in the material world at a critical moment. However, even so, the aftermath has made the mages all over the world panic, but they feel like ants and cannot resist. What is this power? What happened? Why did it become like this? Such doubts appeared all over the world. Mages can clearly feel the unprecedented influx of power, but it does not bring them joy. Because it all comes from the uncontrollable excess magic power, and if you are not careful, it will backfire on yourself. Heaven. The giant beast has awakened. We must send an army of angels to fight. Michael said solemnly to Raphael, and the two archangels went to mobilize troops without stopping. After all, even the center of heaven, Silver City, can feel this invisible storm, as if everything is shaking uncalmly. This is a warning from the depths of the soul. Even ordinary creatures who have nothing to do with the magic world can sense the approach of disaster at this moment, and can't help but feel despair and fear. Heavenly Realm. All the major pantheons have become quiet today, and almost all of them stay indoors. No gods dare to show up. Don't you see that even time and space have undergone tremendous changes? It is precisely because the gods have reached the realm of viewing the timeline that they can see more clearly that cracks have begun to appear in the long river of time, as if the giant beast has torn time and space apart with just a turn. Whether it is the Indian pantheon, the Egyptian pantheon, the Greek pantheon, or the Nordic pantheon, they all use their own means to continue to pay attention to the movements and scenery of the giant beast in hell. After all, this major event of the rise of darkness will even affect the future of One Cheyenne, i.e. hell, under the watchful eyes of many forces in the universe, is undoubtedly the worst hit place. The flames burned, the water surged, the land trembled, and the storm intensified. The balance between the element was broken, and they tore each other apart, making the fire more violent. The water surged like a mountain, the land cracked, and the storm raged. Who woke me up? A huge vertical pupil opened in the center of the natural disaster, and its whole body was made of pure darkness. It was the giant beast. In an instant, the surging and terrifying breath spread, swallowing all the light like a black hole. The stars in the sky were eclipsed, as if they were just insignificant dust in front of this great existence. Not good. Nabu and Stranger didn't care about being angry with the ghost, and all of them rushed to the location of the giant beast with wild expressions. Not only that, there was even a demon army going to attack. The demon kings who now occupied the top of hell naturally didn't want to have another boss. In the face of this ultimate darkness, demons and angels rarely have to work together to deal with the same enemy. It is an unprecedented combination of hell and heaven. At the same time, Gao Li on the earth barely restrained his mind. It seems that I really have to go. Gao Li gritted his teeth and racked his brains to think about how to go to hell. It's not that Gao Li is 100 times braver or confident that he is invincible. Even though he has felt the horror of the giant beast, he still wants to face it. On the contrary, because Gao Li felt the horror of the giant beast, he understood more deeply that it was not an empty talk to destroy the universe. The giant beast is really capable of doing this. So even if Gao Li trembled and hid at home, if he couldn't stop the giant beast, he would still be doomed along with the whole world. There is no difference at all. In this case, it is better to go there and try it yourself to see if there is a turnaround. Wait, it's better to say that, because the giant beast is too strong. We can try this. Suddenly, Gao Li had a flash of inspiration in his mind. In his perception, the breath of the giant beast made the starry sky lose its luster, and the magic power spontaneously tilted towards him, creating a large area of magic vacuum like a dark cemetery. In a sense, this is like an extremely massive celestial body, which makes all spatial dimensions depressed. In this case, the random skills of the cosmic street kid may no longer be random, but will slide towards the location of the giant beast. It's like putting a marble on a flat map. The location where the marble will stop may be very random, but if the map is placed on a funnel, the marble will most likely stop in the funnel. Anyway, the endless style can guarantee that I can survive in all kinds of environments in the universe. Even if I guess wrong, it will be enough to last until the next day to activate the skills again. Let's take a gamble. Gao Li took a deep breath and encouraged himself. He felt his heart pounding in his chest. After all, this plan has too many uncertainties and is extremely dangerous. ZHA, I don't know if I can maintain the connection with your mental telepathy next. If I lose contact, you can ask your father to end the projection of the spirit world and try to teleport me back. This is the second insurance set by Gao Li. At that time, he will find an opportunity to switch to other forms so that the anti-speech magic can take effect on him. Zatanna was stunned. Where are you going? If I don't go to hell, who will? Gory left the last answer and launched his skills brazenly. Swish. In the surprised eyes of the swamp monster and Constantine, Gory disappeared on the spot and lost his trace on the spot. PS. Thanks to book friend 20230321100912194 for the 600 point reward. Chapter 46 Shocking Hell. Gao Li slowly opened his eyes, and what came into his sight was the burning red earth. There were cracks and magma everywhere, and the sky was grey, reflecting the red color of the sunset, like a doomsday scene. This is. Gao Li carefully felt the magic power. The magic power here was more chaotic than anywhere else he knew. The most important thing was the terrifying existence that he could not ignore in his perception. That's right, this is hell. Gao Li began to move towards the giant beast he sensed, and the hell demons he met along the way confirmed his guess. What is that? It should be a human. It looks delicious. The demons also noticed Gao Li. After all, he came to hell intact, carrying a fresh breath that hell absolutely did not have, and was as conspicuous as a bonfire in the dark night. To put it in an analogy, it was like putting a full banquet in front of a hungry gourmet, making the demons salivate, and they all rushed over with red eyes. No demon can refuse to enjoy the temptation of the most delicious soul and body. Just in time. I haven't vented my anger on John yet. Gory didn't even stop his pace, and while keeping moving quickly, he summoned the brilliant sword and axe. High touch. The brilliant sword and axe grew bigger and bigger as Gory swung it, and the endless magic circle illuminated the dim earth. Before the demons could react, Gory mercilessly chopped it down with one axe. Shining strike. Boom. A violent explosion rose into the sky, and the shockwave alone knocked the little demons in the distance over several times. The scene suddenly became quiet, and all the surviving demons stared at this scene in amazement. Get out of the way, don't block the way, I'm in a hurry. The silence lasted until Gory raised the brilliant sword and axe and pointed at them in the air. Oh no, it's a tough guy. Run. Seeing this, the demons that were originally rushing from farther away immediately turned back at a faster speed. Their eyes are not blind. When facing this shocking slash, those big demons who were close to them clearly had no power to resist and were annihilated. Especially the powerful ones among them were terrified because they could see more details. They could see that, whether it was defensive magic tools, or hard flesh amplified by magic, in front of this mysterious masked strongman, they were as fragile as tofu, and could not slow down the attack at all. The huge axe chopped the demons, and even gave them a feeling of cutting cake, which was extremely smooth and silky. Don't mess with it. Since the giant beast woke up, it has been rising from the bottom of hell, and flying towards heaven. The armies from heaven and hell have been ready for battle, and gods such as Nabu and Ghost have also appeared. However, Ghost, who claimed to be able to easily deal with the giant beast, still proudly crossed his shoulders, and waited and saw, and seemed not to plan to take action at the first time. Giant beast, stop. The front is a forbidden area that you cannot enter. Michael, the leader of the army, said solemnly, making a gesture of guarding the entrance to heaven. At present, the giant beast has not stepped out of the range of hell, and angels cannot enter hell, so the angel army has no intention of coming down at all. Damn, a bunch of women are dithering. If you don't fight, I will fight. The leader of the demon army was named Etrigan. Seeing that the angel army only talked fiercely, but did not take action, he immediately got angry. He immediately led the demons to charge, and a large number of high-intensity attacks flooded towards the giant beast. There were many forbidden spells that could destroy the city, which made many angels secretly frightened. And then, there was nothing else. The giant beast didn't even look at them. Those attacks would explode in advance due to the natural breath of the giant beast, just by getting close to the giant beast to a certain distance. However, even the flames of the explosion could not be emitted, and it disappeared, as if it fell into a black hole. What? Etrigan was stunned. How could this happen? Before he could finish, a shadow flashed in front of him, and Etrigan disappeared. The giant beast ate him. Nabu and Stranger, both first-line strongmen, saw it more clearly, and their mood became heavier. They had heard of Etrigan's name, and he was also a powerful fighter, let alone resisting. He was swallowed by the giant beast before he could even react. Seeing that the giant beast continued to move forward, theoretically there was still a material world between heaven and hell. So Nabu had to bite the bullet and fly over. I declare in the name of the King of Order that you shall not step into the material world. With almost every word he said, Nabu's momentum became stronger. When he finished speaking, the brilliance of the power of order had illuminated the giant beast and its surroundings. At the same time, the other 7 artifacts of order came across the space and combined layer by layer on Dr. Fate's body, turning him into a complete form of the God of Order. In this way, he can be regarded as the real king of Nabu. Is that the new order god system of mankind? Zeus, who was secretly observing in the sky, couldn't help but raise his eyebrows when he saw this. It turns out that the god system is formed in this way. The Lord of Order named Nabu is not bad. In terms of hard power, Nabu is of course not as good as Zeus, but this does not prevent Zeus from recognizing Nabu's realm. Well, he is barely qualified to be called the God King with him. Zeus is not arrogant. Although his reputation is extremely bad, he is at the top level among the God Kings in terms of strength. He can even compete with Darkseid in ancient times. And Nabu did not live up to Zeus's high opinion. The majesty of the God King permeated, and even the space seemed to be suppressed, and became as hard as steel. Giant beast, you. Nabu stepped forward with a sacred breath, like a finger of God, that enlightened the human spirit in mythology and legends, and then, before he could even finish his words, Nabu disappeared into the darkness. What? Zeus was really shocked. Not only Zeus, but almost all the gods in the heavenly realm, who saw this scene were all horrified. If they wanted to defeat the God King Nabu, then these veteran God Kings could proudly say that they could do it, and at most they would need a big battle. But, no matter who it was, they would definitely not be able to kill Nabu instantly. In other words, if they were in Nabu's position, they would probably be killed instantly by the giant beast. How is this possible? The giant beast is so strong. When they came to their senses, the gods of the major pantheons were already sweating profusely. Originally, the status of the God King basically stood at the top of the universe. Normally, there shouldn't be so many beings that surpassed the God King. But it was almost as difficult for this giant beast to kill the God King of order as breathing, and even easier than eating and drinking. Chapter 47 RUDC Zophie. Oh my god. Even the God King of Nabu. On Earth, all the magic masters were shocked. Not only because Dr. Kent was their friend and comrade in arms, which made them sad, but most importantly, as a wizard on Earth, they all understood the importance and power of the God King of Order. That was almost the highest peak of all pure human wizards from ancient times to the present, and the pinnacle of pure humans cultivating to become gods. Not to mention that the one killed by the giant beast was a complete order god system. This means that including the God King of Nabu himself, a total of 8 magic gods were killed by the giant beast's casual attack. Oh no, it can't even be called a casual attack. The giant beast just shifted its attention to the God King of Nabu for a while, and didn't even move its body. What should we do next? Seijochi asked blankly, and everyone was confused and afraid. The strength and realm of the giant beast have completely surpassed their common sense. Is it really possible for such an existence to be defeated? In hell, the stranger was already sweating all over, shocked to the point of not being able to control himself. Only after seeing the giant beast continue to float up did the stranger wake up from his dream, looking at the ghost and sternly said, "The giant beast will soon reach the Lord's Garden of Eden. Ghost, why don't you take action? Are you going to sit back and watch the Lord's pasture being defiled?" The ghost snorted coldly and said, "No need to worry, I will take action and clean up this mess." Even after seeing Etrigan and Nabu God King being killed by the giant beast, he was still so confident. As soon as the voice fell, the ghost's body began to expand rapidly, becoming larger and larger. Almost in the blink of an eye, the size of the ghost surpassed the height of the Himalayas, but it did not stop. In the blink of an eye, it had become larger than a continent. Is that the true strength of the spirit of God's wrath of vengeance? Anyone who looked at the scenery here was secretly shocked by the ghost's strength. But soon they found that they were still amazed too early. Before the previous words of surprise fell, the ghost had already expanded to the size of a planet. He hasn't stopped yet? How big can the ghost get? This power is too exaggerated. Now even the gods couldn't sit still, because they saw the ghost continue to grow to be comparable to the sun in the material world. In front of that terrifying star-like body, even the planets seemed like marble toys. Fortunately, this is hell, and not the earth. The ghost also miraculously violated the laws of physics, and did not produce too much gravity and mass. Otherwise this move alone would have caused a world-destroying crisis. I'm the wrath of God, the incarnation of revenge. Giant beast, submit to me. The ghost's magnificent roar resounded through hell, and he stretched out his hand to slap the giant beast. The giant palm of the sky seemed to be bigger than the earth, but it was shrouded in the exquisite laws of space, which concentrated all the power and volume, and gathered them in a space equivalent to the size of the giant beast, ensuring that no power was leaked or wasted. This move alone made everyone marvel. It was hard to imagine what kind of terrifying power was in that space. It really broke through the momentum of the giant beast, and was hit by the ghost with all his strength. With a loud boom, the sound and light instantly reached the limit. In an instant, the world was silent and the sun and moon were dark. Humph. As I expected, in front of the Lord's Majesty, the giant beast is nothing more than this. The only voice that everyone could hear was the proud and arrogant words of the ghost. Did the ghost succeed? The stranger and the heaven side were all overjoyed. Among them, powerful people such as Michael, could see the scene clearly. I saw that the ghost's giant palm pressed down on the giant beast, and it actually pressed the giant beast down a little. Quack. The ghost is invincible in the world. Humiliate the giant beast severely. At this moment, a voice without joy or sadness sounded. What are you doing? The giant beast asked without emotion, as if it couldn't understand the ghost's complacency. Ghost was stunned subconsciously, and all the other people and gods didn't understand the reaction of the giant beast for a while. Isn't it obvious what Ghost did? Just as they were thinking this, darkness began to slowly float around the giant beast. The gods in the heavenly realm were the first to widen their eyes, and even their bodies trembled slightly. Because with their realm, they immediately understood it. It was the same spatial technique that Ghost used to condense a planet-sized palm. The place where Ghost hid was not the body of the giant beast at all. It was just a glimpse, and the gods saw the dark bulge, which was just like the pores on the skin of the giant beast. It was slightly sunken by the earth-shaking slap of Ghost. No. As if it was an existence that could not be looked at directly. Just seeing the giant beast's body revealed for a moment, the demons and angels with slightly lower realms and strength all screamed and burned. That was because the brain and eyes received a huge amount of information that could not be processed, and they overheated and burned in an instant. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Ghost, who was the first to be hit, naturally saw the truth. His face changed drastically in an instant. He could not accept this fact at all. However, no matter how unacceptable it was, the action of the giant beast would not stop because of him. The next second, the endless darkness that appeared with the main body flashed and completely swallowed up the ghost. This was the last sight of the ghost that Gory saw when he arrived at the scene. The invincible ghost fell. Gory subconsciously sighed to Zatanna in the telepathy. Yes, Zatanna's telepathy was still well connected. Originally, with Zatanna's level, she couldn't cross the two worlds by telepathy alone. Fortunately, there were a lot of magic masters nearby who were maintaining the projection of the spirit world. Therefore, Zatanna's magic was directly projected through the channel created by the projection of the spirit world. However, Zatanna was no longer in the mood to reply to any of Gory's words. Not only her, but almost everyone who witnessed this scene was silent. Hell fell into a deathly silence, filled with a strong sense of despair. I didn't expect that even such a powerful ghost was no match for the giant beast. The scene was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop, but in everyone's ears, it seemed as if the bell of doom had already rung. No, none of this is right. This is not the answer I want. Suddenly, the giant beast muttered to himself. Then the giant beast scanned the whole scene, as if looking for a target, and soon noticed the magic masters who were spying on him. No, don't. Zatanna's terrified scream suddenly rang in Gory's ears, her tone full of panic and despair. P.S. Thank you for the 100-point reward from Imaginary Trial. Chapter 48 came out of nowhere and shocked the three realms. The moment the giant beast stared at them, the faces of the magic masters all changed drastically. Just a glance made the magic power in their bodies boil collectively, and even burned their flesh. Turn it off. Turn it off quickly. The voice of the sorcery master Sargon was distorted under the severe pain. He tried to suppress the magic power with sweat all over his forehead, but the cold sweat was immediately evaporated by the high temperature as soon as it appeared. No. The projection of the spirit world was forcibly stretched open. It can't be closed. Seijochi was also trembling with pain, and his voice was trembling. The giant beast's sight alone brought huge power. It inserted into the projection of the spirit world very roughly, making it impossible for them to close the hell passage they opened. As soon as the two finished speaking, the riot of magic power could no longer be controlled, and even the skin of everyone's body began to twist violently. No. Zatanna screamed in horror and tried her best to recite the anti-speech magic to help the magic masters cool down. But as soon as her magic touched several magic masters, it was like an electric shock, and infinite darkness was also transmitted along. Zatanna screamed miserably and fell to the ground, rolling and struggling. No. Guan's eyes were bulging, and he cried out in despair, but he could do nothing. With his magic power mixed up, he couldn't even cast magic. Smoke was coming out of his body, and he was about to spontaneously combust and die. Damn it. At the critical moment, Zatanna seemed to hear Gori's roar in her ears. Gori guessed the cause and effect without asking. After all, he and Zatanna's telepathic magic were hanging in the channel of the spirit world projection. Therefore, as the master of magic, Gori instantly felt the power of the giant beast's gaze crushing in, and then heard Zatanna exclaimed. Time was extremely tight, leaving Gori only a few seconds to think. Save or not save? If I save, it means facing the power of the giant beast, but if I don't save, there is no doubt that all the magic masters will die without a complete body, and even Zatanna who was next to them may be affected. When these magic masters met before, most of them had no hostility towards him. On the contrary, some people like Seijochi treated him as a junior, and took care of him. Even Guani, who was most unhappy with Gori, had the first reaction to protect him when the God King of Naboo was angry. What's more, the reason why they gathered together was to risk their lives, to find a way out for mankind, and stop the evil witch group's conspiracy to destroy the world. They could be called heroes. Although most of them had no relatives or close friends with Gori, Gori would still feel unhappy if he watched them die tragically. If I can't even bear the gaze of a giant beast, then I came to hell in vain. I don't have the strength to do anything at all. It was not until Zatanna's scream pierced his eardrums that Gori, who was hesitating and tangled, suddenly woke up and made a decision with a firm look in his eyes. Go. Now, right here. The next moment, Zatanna's whole body became much more relaxed, and she was no longer on the verge of death. That was Gori's voice just now. Zatanna struggled to get up with a blurred consciousness, soaked from head to toe with sweat. Not only her, but the other magic masters also stopped screaming, and the room was filled with the heavy breathing of the survivors. We're saved? What happened? Sagan asked weakly, and Guani also panted and looked at the projection of the spirit world, and his eyes almost popped out. A figure emitting diamond light suddenly appeared like a savior. It was he who stood in the vision of the projection of the spirit world, and blocked the sight of the giant beast for everyone. We survived? Was it that person who saved us? It must be, otherwise it would be impossible for him to just block there. Who is he? He can actually block the gaze of the giant beast. When the other magic masters recovered, they also noticed this scene, and showed expressions of respect and fear. They had just experienced the horror of the giant beast. However, the gaze that could easily wipe them out was like a breeze blowing on the face of the diamond figure, not worth mentioning. That is, this scene was not only seen by the magic masters, but also attracted the attention of the whole audience. After all, the giant beast's every move affected the hearts of the gods. Gori's whole body was shining with a crystal-like luster, standing on the spot like an iron tower, showing a huge difference in strength. Wait, could it be him? Among them, the stranger opened his mouth wide and vaguely recognized Gori's identity. The stranger had such vision, and the gods who always paid attention to the movements of hell were no exception. It's him. I didn't expect him to show up at this time. Zeus whispered to himself, with shock and greed in his eyes. I said, if it weren't for this status, how could he stop the giant beast? Odin also stood up from the throne with a tang, as if he wanted to see Gori more clearly. It is indeed him, the second lord of magic power. Just as Madame Shangdu said, in the eyes of those with high realms, the identity of the lord of magic power can be easily identified by the unique aura of the endless style. Especially this mysterious lord of magic power, who used some unknown means to withstand the gaze of the giant beast, further highlights his high gold content. At this moment, almost all of Hell's attention was focused on Gao Li, the lord of magic power who suddenly appeared. He also unprecedentedly fought against the giant beast. This is a feat that even the God King and the ghost could not do. They were killed in seconds after just one encounter. On the other hand, this lord of magic power did not even move a finger. Just in terms of expressiveness, he was far better than the previous masters. In fact, what they didn't know was that Gao Li really almost couldn't move a finger. It's so heavy. It's like being in a torrent. Gao Li was shocked in his heart, but he was very sure that he was constantly immune to magic power. He was like turning violent magic power into harmless water, which should not have hurt Gori at all. However, if the water gathered into a raging flood, it would still wash Gori away. Interesting. Is this the essence of my power? At this moment, the giant beast murmured to himself again. Obviously, even the giant beast, who was indifferent to everything, was interested in Gory's amazing defense. Unlike others, the giant beast saw the process. He saw the huge power he spread out at will, and the moment he touched Gory, part of it disappeared and disintegrated out of thin air. This caused the overall power to begin to collapse. Although it still caused an impact on Gory as inertia, it no longer had such a terrifying killing power. "Let me try again," the giant beast whispered like an ancient god, and the dark wave that had killed Nabu and Ghost in an instant appeared again, swarming towards Gory. PS. Thanks to 661 for the 100-point reward. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49, The Endless Lord. This was a real attack by the giant beast. Not long ago, he only glanced at her carelessly, which made all living beings unable to bear it. Just like the exhalation produced by breathing, it easily blew away the dust. But now, the giant beast consciously used its power on Gao Li. The situation was completely different. Boom. In an instant, the destructive wave, that was like the collapse of the sky and the collapse of the earth, directly acted on Gao Li. Gao Li's pupils under the mask immediately shrank, and he felt that the armor on his body was about to fall apart. At this time, he was like a reef in the middle of the river, being washed away by the terrifying torrent. Is the giant beast angry? Everyone present was shocked. The giant beast had never attacked a person so obviously. Even if it was as powerful as the ghost, the giant beast only revealed its true body for a moment, and turned over lazily, and took care of the ghost by the way. The giant beast actually thought so highly of this master of magic. Can the Lord of Magic really withstand this attack? Zeus subconsciously held his breath, and watched this scene anxiously. If the second Lord of Magic falls, I wonder if he can find a way to seize the new magic. In this way, perhaps he can fight Hecate in the future. Just like Zeus, the gods of many pantheons also stared at hell, with their own guesses in their hearts. It shouldn't be possible, right? After all, even the ghosts were killed by the giant beast in seconds. The giant beast has just awakened, and has not borrowed new magic, so there is no magic debt. If the giant beast has no magic debt, then the Lord of Magic is probably finished. Their judgments are basically the same. The strongest moment of the Lord of Magic is when he asks the debtor for debt. If he faces an existence that has no debt relationship with himself, then the identity of the Lord of Magic is not very useful. The most important thing is that the body of the Lord of Magic has already appeared cracks that cannot bear the burden. It's terrible. The magic power contained in this dark power is far less than the power of order. Gao Li gritted his teeth, and even the skeleton in his body began to creak, and his brain was desperately thinking of countermeasures. I'm still too arrogant. If the same amount of magic power may account for 70% to 80% in the power of order, then it only accounts for 20% to 30% in the power of darkness. To be more precise, the dark wave has far more and richer other advanced powers than the power of order. Not only divine power and magic power, but also contains a lot of special energy that Gao Li has never seen and cannot understand. And Gao Li's defense ability against non-pure magic attacks depends on the magic content in it. If it is the power of order, since magic power is its large frame and plays a role of a load-bearing column, once it is eliminated, it will naturally collapse immediately. But if magic power is only a part of its all-encompassing, then even if it is eliminated, it is just like knocking down a few insignificant walls. Perhaps the overall power will still collapse in the end, but it will definitely not happen so quickly, and the remaining power is still very large and terrifying. There is really no other way, except to stimulate the infinite power to resist. Gao Li felt that he could not hold on any longer. Whether I live or die, it depends on whether I can hold on. Gao Li moved his hand to the driver with difficulty, and triggered the infinite magician ring again. Unlimitedness. Gao Li squeezed the knight's magic power crazily, and the phantom of the diamond Yinglang surrounded him with the sky-high light column. Hiara! Gao Li roared, as if he was going to burn himself. The fierce confrontation between the two sides has reached a white-hot stage, and even the most ordinary demons and angels can clearly feel it at this time. The dark fluctuations that should have been invisible and invisible were forced to emerge as scattered void patterns due to Gao Li's fierce resistance. The next second, the destructive aftermath swept all around, and all the armies of heaven and hell were knocked over. However, the place where Gao Li was located was like the center of the storm, but it became extremely calm. It's unbelievable. He actually did it. The gods couldn't help but exclaimed, because this meant that the other party really withstood the first wave of attacks from the giant beast. If they were to think in their shoes, none of them would dare to believe that they could do this. Unlimitedness. All the people and gods watching the scene chewed on this word. This was the only magic spell that the Lord of Magic Power chanted when he burst out with the greatest power. Obviously, this endless power is the power that he truly possessed. It turns out to be the sublimation of the concept. At this time, the giant beast spoke again, and he had completely understood the essential ability of the endless style. His tone was still flat, without joy or sadness. But then, the giant beast did not launch a second wave of attack. Instead, he said something that shocked the three worlds. Lord of Infinity, who controls the magic of the nights, please come into my body and have a chat. At this moment, everyone from the Magic Master to the Devil King of Hell, from the Archangel to the God King of Heaven, opened their mouths wide, and even their jaws almost dropped to the ground. What did the giant beast just say? Question mark? He actually seemed to be politely inviting the Lord of Magic? Exclamation mark. You know, even the ghost who represents the fighting power of heaven, the giant beast was too lazy to say a word to him. At most he just sneered contemptuously. But this time, the giant beast called the person by name and was very polite, showing that he took it very seriously. So that new magic is called night magic? Lord of Infinity. No wonder the spell just now was unlimitedness. It is indeed appropriate to be able to block the endless dark power. Under the surprised and suspicious gazes of the gods and demons, Gao Li, who had barely recovered, was also slightly surprised. Obviously, the name of the night's magic has not spread yet, so how could a giant beast, which has just revived, know about it? Could it be? Gao Li suddenly had an extremely terrifying guess. With just one strike, the giant beast understood all of the night's magic, including its origins. In a sense, this is almost omniscient and omnipotent. No, now I should not think about this, but the invitation of the giant beast. Gao Li forced his thoughts back. Obviously, the giant beast is much stronger than him, and if he wants to harm him, he doesn't need any conspiracy or tricks. Thinking from this perspective, Gao Li's mind turned quickly. Maybe the subtext of the giant beast is that it is difficult for him to force me into his body without killing me, so he hopes that I will take the initiative to cooperate. Then perhaps the previous Etrigan, the God King of Naboo, and the ghost did not die, but were forcibly taken into the body by the giant beast. In fact, no remains of their bones were seen, and they all disappeared after a period of darkness. What is the purpose of the giant beast? What is it going to do? Gao Li became more and more curious. Anyway, he didn't have much resistance, so he nodded and said, "Okay, come on." "Thank you." The giant beast blinked its vertical pupils, and the ultimate darkness completely swallowed Gao Li. Chapter 50 The Power of Creation. After being swallowed by darkness, Gao Li felt that he had come to a strange space. This space was pitch black and empty. There was no direction, no gravity, only tranquility. Giant beast. Gao Li tried to shout, and the giant beast actually responded to him. "I'm here." His figure slowly emerged, very much like a smaller version of the outside world. Before Gao Li continued to ask questions, the giant beast sighed. "Sure enough, I feel that your breath is a little familiar." Gao Li was stunned when he heard it, and his brain immediately began to weave colorful imaginations. According to many film and television works he has watched, could it be that this is the root, that he has had an old relationship with the giant beast for countless lives in the past, or that he was actually a super boss? Then it seems that the difference between the giant beast and himself can be explained. I didn't expect that there was such a secret hidden in me. When Gao Li was thinking about this, he heard the giant beast continue to say, "I was sleeping soundly before, and suddenly I felt something forcefully broke into the one Cheyenne IE, which startled me all of a sudden. Now if I feel it up close, that thing is probably you." Gao Li. Well, it turns out that there is only this cause and effect relationship. So, is the awakening of the giant beast still his fault? It was because they noticed that the giant beast had a tendency to revive, that the evil witch group, which had been silent for many years, began to prepare for the ritual to awaken the giant beast. No, it was a system that forcefully broke into the One Shianai, not Gao Li. He was just innocently thrown into the One Shianai by the system. Gao Li began to quickly pass on the blame, but what he didn't know was that even without him, the giant beast would eventually be awakened by a major event in the future Infinite Earth Crisis. Now it's just that the awakening time has been advanced a little. But this is just right for me, the giant beast continued. Perhaps you, who come from outside the world, know the answer I want better than the God King who is in the world. Gao Li asked in confusion. What do you want to know? With your strength and realm, you should be infinitely close to omniscience, right? The giant beast said in a muffled voice. I seem to know everything, and yet seem to know nothing. I know things that I don't need to know, but I don't know things that I need to know. Therefore, the question that puzzles me the most is, who am I? I thought that the God King standing at the top of the universe could know, but unfortunately he can't. As the giant beast spoke, a scene appeared in front of Gao Li. It was the God King Nabu who was sucked in. When the giant beast asked him who he was, with the bad temper of the God King Nabu, he directly sprayed. You are the embodiment of evil, the ignorant swamp that prevents us from moving towards the eternal holy light. Of course, he was not fearless, but felt that, now that he was dead, he might as well satisfy his desire to talk before he died. The giant beast did not get angry, but just pondered for a moment and shook his head slowly. This is not the answer I want. Your answer only taught me contempt. The scene disappeared at this moment, and the giant beast said to Gao Li again. Then, through the ghost's attack on me, I felt a nature similar to mine. So I pulled the ghost in, hoping to learn my identity from him, hoping that he could better answer my doubts. Just like the scene with the God King of Naboo, the giant beast also asked the ghost, but the ghost was as stubborn and arrogant as he looked. I'm here to defeat you, not to debate. I don't need to answer all your questions. This made the giant beast speechless for a few seconds. How could you have the face to say that when you were killed instantly? The ghost just finished his reflexive mouth cannon, and then he came back to his senses belatedly, and roared a little bit unable to hold back. If you really want to know, then I will tell you. You are just the darkness that should be burned by the spirit of revenge, so that all living beings will fear the wrath of revenge, and understand the consequences of defying the will of the Lord. The giant beast said disappointedly. Your answer only taught me arrogance, and it is still not the answer I want. The voice fell, and the scene disappeared. Only the giant beast and Gao Li were left in the void looking at each other. So, the endless master who controls the magic of the night, please tell me, who am I? Gao Li pondered. This question is not easy to answer. Unlike Clark's well-known origin story before, Gao Li, who is not familiar with the DC world, really has no idea who the giant beast is, and he has never even heard of the giant beast in his previous life. However, just like netizens always like to discuss who is the strongest in a work, DC and Marvel are of course no exception. Gao Li often sees such posts on the forum. If the strongest being in the Marvel universe is OAA, the one above all, then the most recognized strongest being in the DC universe is the Supreme God in his perfect form. Giant Beast is called the Ultimate Darkness, representing the ultimate darkness. Should he be considered the strongest of the dark forces? And Giant Beast just mentioned the power of the ghost, which gave him a similar feeling. The ghost is the wrath of God, and the power comes from the power of God. Gao Li thought quickly, and felt that the two might be related. On one side is the strongest power of the dark camp, and on the other side is the strongest power of the light camp, and religions especially like to create some binary oppositional symmetrical designs. Maybe. Gao Li said after careful consideration. You are related to God. For example, you are the opposite or the other side of God. After all, light and darkness are always symmetrical. This is an extremely disrespectful statement. Whether it is Naboo or Ghost, they would never dare to say this, because they really fear God. Unfortunately, this is hell, and there are countless people who want to blaspheme God. The giant beast immediately said with regret, this kind of words, the devil has answered me before. As the giant beast spoke, the scene of Etrigan, who was first sucked in, appeared. Etrigan shouted loudly, "Giant beast, you are evil, darkness, and the opposite of God." The next second, the scene was broken, and the giant beast's comments were attached. "Even if this is right, it is just my fate. It can't answer my questions, and can't explain who I am." "No, you misunderstood. I'm not talking about your fate." Gao Li spread his hands, making the giant beast look over in surprise. Gao Li continued to explain, "I'm talking about your identity. You have learned about my night magic and the corresponding magic system, right?" "Yes," the giant beast responded. "It's very interesting and surprising. It has nothing to do with the power of creation God's realm. It should be the knowledge you brought in from outside the Wanshan instrument." Gao Li was interrupted by his curiosity. "What is the power of creation God's realm you are talking about?" The giant beast simply said, "It is one of the 7 positive powers of creation. Both divine power and magic power are included in it." Then the magic power condensed an entity incarnation for itself, named Hecate, who is the ancestor of magic. Gao Li asked again, "Since there is a positive power of creation, does it also exist a reverse power of creation?" "Yes, the 7 positive powers of creation are collectively called anti-crisis energy. Just like the positive and negative poles, there are also 7 negative powers of creation, collectively called crisis energy. These origins of the universe correspond to each other in pairs, and there are a total of 14 positive and negative forces of creation. For example, the opposite of the realm of God is the wind of nothingness that destroys and annihilates all gods and demons." Gao Li listened thoughtfully. The characteristics of this wind of nothingness sound a bit like the ability of the endless style. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.